Chapter 28-43. As the Dragon Slayer Palace made their move, the entire divine prefecture fell into chaos. Falling into chaos was inevitable. After all, such a big thing couldn't be done quietly. At the same time, in the sky above a certain mountain range, hundreds of thousands of people gathered together, looking around curiously. These people were the disciples of the Northern Dragon God Palace. Qin Feiyang was also in the crowd. And now, they were still in the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon's spatial divine item. The interior of this spatial divine item was very large, with undulating mountains and rivers. Although there were no fierce beasts, it was filled with rich essence and energy. Qin Feiyang had secretly checked it at the first moment. This spatial divine item could at least hold millions of people. And there were many spirit veins and crystal veins underground. Of course, the spirit veins and crystal veins here couldn't be compared to the Black Tortoise realm. One had to know. Just the Northern Dragon God Palace alone had hundreds of thousands of spirit veins and crystal veins. It could be said that this time, the 4 divine dragon palaces could instantly improve the cultivation environment of the Black Tortoise realm by dozens or hundreds of times. In other words, when the time came, as long as Hua-Yi, Fire Lotus, and 5-clawed Golden Dragon put the spirit veins and spirit veins they robbed into the Black Tortoise realm, then in terms of cultivation environment, the Black Tortoise realm would directly surpass the divine prefecture. At the same time, with the nurturing of these spirit veins and crystal veins, the Black Tortoise realm's growth speed would instantly soar countless times. They believed that in a few million years or tens of millions of years, the Black Tortoise realm would truly be comparable to the ancient realm. A few million years or tens of millions of years, in the outside world, this was very long, very long. But for the Black Tortoise realm, it was quite fast. 1 day was 1,000 years, 10 days was 10,000 years, 100 days was 100,000 years, 1,000 days was 1,000,000 years, 1,000 days was just a little more than 3 years. 3 years was just a blink of an eye in the eyes of mortals, let alone cultivators. So the current Black Tortoise realm was very scary. Of course. And the creatures in the Black Tortoise realm, as the cultivation environment improved, they would also become stronger. For example, Pai Lupi and Theta Wang were now powerhouses of the 9th Heaven realm. Perhaps after a while, he would have to start breaking through to the imperishable realm. As long as the Black Tortoise world gave birth to an undead realm expert, the Black Tortoise world would undergo a huge transformation. Until then, the Black Tortoise world was no longer a small world. It was a great world that could be compared to the ancient world. It's already been so long, why is there still no movement at all? Could it be that we haven't reached the Divine Dragon Island yet? Someone asked suspiciously. Qin Feiyang glanced at that person and casually asked, "Are you that impatient to see the Divine Dragon Island?" Of course. To me, the Divine Dragon Island is a holy land. Look at the past. Only those who have broken through to the half-step undead realm are qualified to enter Divine Dragon Island. People like us don't even dare to think about it. And now, I have the chance to enter Divine Dragon Island. Of course, I am a little impatient. After that, the man looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Don't you want to?" "Yes, of course. It's just that Lord Ancestral Dragon hasn't appeared yet. It's useless even if we think about it." Qin Feiyang laughed. "I thought you didn't want to." That person pursed his lips. Who doesn't want to see such a legendary place as soon as possible? I'm just thinking, is this Divine Dragon Island as magical as the legends say? Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with curiosity. This is a must. After all, it's the dragon's headquarters. Let's not talk about anything else. Let's just talk about the Dragon God Palace. I believe that the Divine Dragon Island is definitely countless times better than the Dragon God Palace. That person said. Makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded. Outside. Divine Dragon Island. Inside the main hall. Long Zun sat at the top, while the 10 great ancestral dragons stood respectfully below. How's the situation? Long Zun scanned the 10 great ancestral dragons. Fire Dragon Ancestral Dragon looked at Long Zun and said, Old Black and I brought back more than 300,000 people, but the resources, speaking of this, Fire Dragon Ancestral Dragon's face was full of anger. The white-clothed woman looked at Fire Dragon Ancestral Dragon and asked, Were all the resources snatched away by Qin Feiyang? That's right. Qin Feiyang's actions were too fast, and there was Qin Batian and the Mermaid Emperor blocking us. When we entered the Northern Dragon God Palace, other than these 300,000 people, there was nothing else. Fire Dragon Ancestral Dragon said angrily. The same goes for the Western Dragon God Palace. The white-clothed woman shook her head and sighed. She looked up at Long Zun and said, Lord, when we arrived at the Western Dragon God Palace, there were only a few 100,000 people left. What about the East and South? Long Zun asked. Although the resources of the Eastern Dragon God Palace were also plundered by Qin Feiyang's men, the people left behind were not bad, more than 800,000 people. Blood Dragon Ancestral Dragon said. The resources of the Southern Dragon God Palace were also all gone. As for the disciples of the Dragon God Palace, there were more than 500,000 people. Golden Dragon Ancestral Dragon said. These bastards, their movements are too fast. Long Zun was furious. He thought that he could more or less get back some resources, but he didn't expect that he couldn't even get back a single herb. It's all the Dragon Slayer Palace's fault. If they hadn't intercepted us halfway, we would have had a chance to get back some resources. Silver Dragon Ancestral Dragon roared. Phew. Long Zun took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Then how many people did we bring back from the 4 Dragon God Palaces? We've counted. The disciples of the 4 Dragon God Palaces added up to about 2 million people. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon respectfully replied. The 4 Dragon God Palaces have more than 100 million disciples, but now only 2 million people are left. Long Zun said angrily. Yes. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon nodded. Bastard. These humans deserve to die. Killing intent surged in Long Zun's eyes. The 10 great ancestral dragons looked at each other, their eyes full of helplessness. Lord Long Zun, although there are only 2 million people left, their loyalty to us dragons is beyond doubt. If we can train them well, they will be a very terrifying force. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon said. That's true. To be able to choose to stay at a time like this, they must be absolutely loyal to our dragon clan. It's no exaggeration to say that they are more reliable than Li Chang and the other powerful humans. The woman in white nodded. Then focus on training them. Of course, signing a destiny contract is also necessary. You guys can handle this matter yourselves. Long Zun said. Yes. The 10 great ancestral dragons nodded respectfully. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon asked, Lord, what about the people we sent out? Those who went to the east were all killed by Qin Feiyang's men. It was that 5-clawed golden dragon. As for the people in the south and west, I erased their souls, so only Li Chang and the others who went to the north came back alive. Long Zun said. Killed them all? Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon was stunned. Long Zun said angrily, not killing them and letting Qin Feiyang take advantage of them? Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon shrunk his neck. I now know Qin Feiyang's intention. He wants to seal off Divine Dragon Island and imprison us dragons on this island. Long Zun said. Imprison us? The 10 great ancestral dragons were shocked. That's right. There are 2 heaven-defying artifacts in each of the north, south, east, and west. If this isn't to imprison us, then what is it for? If it weren't for the sovereign divine weapon, I'm afraid they would have already killed their way into Divine Dragon Island. Long Zun snorted coldly. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon said resentfully, this little bastard is quite ambitious. He actually wants to take away the rule of the ancient world from our hands. His plan is very good, but he neglected one point. My Dragon God Palace now has the time rule of 500 years in a day. As long as I have enough time, when I step into the half-step sovereign realm, I will be able to fight against the heaven-defying artifacts. By then, it will be the time for us dragons to fight back. Long Zun sneered. That's right. Although I don't know how he left the Nether King's Hell, after leaving the Nether King's Hell, he won't be able to cultivate in the ancient city. In this way, his cultivation speed will be greatly reduced. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon nodded. So, all of you have to hurry up and cultivate. Strive to step into the great undead realm before I break through. By then, with me restraining the heaven-defying artifacts, all of you will be able to easily kill Qin Batian and the others. Long Zun said. Yes. The 10 great ancestral dragons replied respectfully. Long Zun waved his hand and said, then go and make arrangements for the disciples of the Dragon God Palace. Yes. The 10 of them nodded respectfully and turned to leave the palace. Qin Feiyang, Qin Batian, do you think you have already won? Just you wait. When I break through to the half-step dominator realm, it will be your doomsday. Long Zun looked at the night sky outside the palace and his eyes flashed with cold murderous intent. In the sky above a mountain, the 10 great ancestral dragons stood side by side. Swoosh! As the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon, the White-Robed Lady, the Blood Dragon Ancestral Dragon, and the Golden Dragon Ancestral Dragon waved their hands, countless people appeared in the void before them. These people were the disciples that they had brought back from the 4 Dragon God Palaces. Qin Feiyang was among them. As soon as everyone appeared, they immediately scanned their surroundings. What entered their sight was an endless stretch of mountains, rivers, and land. Although the Divine Dragon Island was just an island, even the Undead Realm experts were unable to see the entire Divine Dragon Island. One could imagine. How big was the Divine Dragon Island? In the mountains, there were clouds and mist lingering around. Rivers extended in all directions. The grass and trees were green and it was like a fairyland. The spirit vein and crystal vein energy here is indeed more terrifying than the Dragon God Palace. Yeah. Unbelievable. How many spirit veins and crystal veins are there underground? Look at the top of the mountain. Those are definitely rare herbs in the world. The 2 million disciples scanned their surroundings, their eyes filled with shock. Not to mention these people, even Qin Feiyang was quite surprised. The spirit vein energy of the spirit vein and crystal vein energy of the Divine Dragon Island was not even 1/10 of the Devil's Land. One had to know. The Devil's Land had long been comparable to the Dragon God Palace. Now, it had far surpassed the Dragon God Palace. Even so, it was not even 1/10 of the Divine Dragon Island. It was really unbelievable. The most shocking thing was that precious herbs could be seen everywhere in the mountains below. In just half a mile, he found all kinds of elixirs that could open the door to potential, as well as herbs that could increase cultivation. For example, the Tree of Fortune and the Tree of Divine Infant. Their thick trunks could not be surrounded by dozens of people holding hands. There were thousands of fruits on them. This was simply a treasure trove. It was much better than the Black Tortoise Realm. Chapter 2844. If he wiped out the Divine Dragon Island as well, thinking of this, Qin Feiyang's heart couldn't help but burn. The resources of the Divine Dragon Island and the 4 Great Dragon God Halls were equivalent to 2/3 of the Divine Continent's resources. At that time, how much would the Black Tortoise Realm grow? It was hard to imagine. Just as Qin Feiyang was lost in his thoughts, the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon said, "As you can see, this is the Divine Dragon Island. Lord Ancestral Dragon, can we really cultivate here?" Someone immediately asked, his eyes filled with apprehension. This place was too tempting. The dragons brought them here. It felt like a dream. Of course. And the Dragon Sovereign personally instructed me to focus on training you guys. The Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon laughed. Focus on training us? Everyone was stunned. That's right. We dragons don't need any talent, we only need loyalty. We dragons also have this confidence. As long as you are loyal to us dragons, even if you don't have talent, we dragons can still nurture you into a supreme expert. The Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon said proudly. We will pledge our lives to the dragons. 2 million people knelt down and swore. Qin Feiyang also lowered his head and squatted in the crowd. Now was not the time to be impulsive. If he didn't lower his head, he would attract the attention of the dragons. Now, he needed to keep a low profile and try not to attract attention so that he could find Yi Shui, and the other two. Very good. The Great Ancestral Dragon looked at the attitude of the group and were very satisfied. The Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon waved his hand and a crystal appeared. Qin Feiyang raised his head to look, and his eyes flashed. It was a divine stone of fate. You know what to do. The Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon said indifferently. Yes. Everyone stood up and nodded. Then, they all cut their fingers and drops of blood appeared. At this moment, the 10 Great Ancestral Dragon were extremely cautious. They released their spirit sense and carefully looked at everyone. Because they were worried that someone would take advantage of the chaos and not bleed. However, what they were worried about did not happen. 2 million people had cut their fingers. Qin Feiyang naturally had some too. At this time, he couldn't play any tricks. As for this destiny contract, of course, he wasn't afraid. The enslavement seal could be removed at any time. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon waved his hand, and all the blood turned into a river of blood that surged into the sky and into the divine stone of fate. Very soon, the fate contract was completed. Li Chang, you will be in charge of arranging their cave residences. Remember, give them the best resources. The Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon put away the divine stone of fate and looked down at the mountains below. Yes. Li Chang flew out of the cave and stood in front of the Black Dragon Ancestor Dragon, nodding respectfully. Don't make things difficult for them. Also, your reaction when you encountered Qin Batian in the north made Lord Dragon Sovereign very displeased. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said. This lowly one knows his mistake. Li Chang's expression changed as he hurriedly knelt in front of the Black Dragon Ancestor Dragon. We don't mean to blame you. But you'd better learn your lesson. You should know Lord Dragon Sovereign's temper. Even if we are ancestral dragons, if we dare to rebel, he will not hesitate to kill us. Ancestral Dragon said meaningfully. Thank you, sir, for your mercy. This lowly one will definitely remember. In the future, I swear to be loyal to you and will never betray you. Li Chang bowed his head and said. All right. Remember what you said today. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon glanced at him indifferently, then looked at Qin Feiyang and the others, and said with a smile, Divine Dragon Island has a time array that lasts 500 years a day, work hard. After saying that, the 10 great ancestral dragons dispersed and returned to their respective clans. A time array that lasts 500 years a day? It can't be. Divine Dragon Island's time array is actually so powerful? After the 10 great ancestral dragons disappeared, more than 2 million people were in an uproar. Everyone's face was filled with shock. Not only did they have endless resources, but they also had a time array that lasts 500 years a day. This was simply heaven. Brother, are you excited? A young man beside Qin Feiyang grabbed Qin Feiyang's shoulder and asked. Yes, yes. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and nodded to the young man. But he didn't mind. What was there to be excited about? A mere 500 years a day couldn't be compared to the time array of the ancient castle in the Black Tortoise realm. Of course. For these people, it was indeed something to be excited about. Because these people in front of them, not to mention a time array that lasts 500 years a day, they had probably never even seen a time array that lasts 10 years a day. Li Chang did not open his mouth to urge them, and stood at the side quietly looking at everyone. Qin Feiyang glanced at Li Chang, his eyes shining. Li Chang, this name, when he was communicating with the ancestor had mentioned it before. He had a cultivation base of the initial imperishable realm, and his strength was quite impressive. Moreover, judging from the warning that ancestral dragon Black Dragon gave Li Chang should have fallen into the hands of the ancestor, and might even have the heart to rebel at that time. In other words, this Li Chang was actually not willing to work for the dragons. Otherwise, why would he have the heart to rebel? Therefore, this Li Chang could be used as a starting point. He knew nothing about Divine Dragon Island. He had no idea where Cloud Supreme, Yi Shui, and Old Man Yi were. And in order to find out about this, he had to find a suitable person. From Qin Feiyang's point of view, this Li Chang should be the entry point. However, he couldn't be too direct. After all, Li Chang would definitely be afraid after being warned by ancestral dragon Black Dragon. At that time, if he were to overreach himself and expose his identity, the gains would not make up for the losses. So, this matter had to be done slowly and observed first. After a while, everyone finally calmed down, and the place became much quieter. Have you all calmed down? Li Chang finally spoke. Greetings, Lord. Only then did everyone realize that they had neglected Li Chang, and hurriedly bowed. Li Chang nodded his head, glanced at the group of people, and said, since you've all calmed down, then follow me. After saying that, Li Chang flew down, and everyone immediately followed him. Entering the mountains below, everyone could clearly see that whether it was the surrounding giant peaks or the mountain ridges, there were countless cave dwellings of all sizes. This place has no special name. We call it the cultivation ground. In the past, there were about 1,000 people in this cultivation ground. And now, sigh, it's fine if I don't say it, in short, they are the same as me, humans. Moreover, their cultivation bases are at least at the half-step Undying Realm. Among them, there are many initial and initial stage Undying Realm experts. So normally, if you have nothing to do, don't make a fuss here, lest you disturb everyone's meditation. As for the cave dwellings, there are many here. You can pick one. Li Chang looked at the group of people and said. So many Undying Realm experts? More than 2 million people were once again in an uproar. In the past, it was difficult to even see a single Undying Realm expert outside, but on Divine Dragon Island, there were more than 1,000 Undying Realm experts. If the Undying Realm experts of the dragons were included, how terrifying would the number be? Chapter 2845. In the past, Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. What Li Chang said was that there used to be more than 1,000 undead realm experts here. What about now? This time, Long Zun sent out 1,000 undead realm experts. How many came back? From Li Chang's tone, it seemed that they had lost a lot. Alright, that's it. You guys make your own arrangements. After Li Chang finished speaking, he was ready to leave. Lord Li, what about the resources? Yeah. Cultivation requires soul stones, right? Where are we going to get them? There are also divine arts and divine weapons. Lord Ancestral Dragon just said that he would give us the best resources. Someone hurriedly asked. Giving you the best resources doesn't mean giving you divine arts and divine weapons. If you are equipped with everything, what's the difference between you and the flowers in the greenhouse? Li Chang raised his eyebrows. But Lord Ancestral Dragon said so. Someone was not convinced and used Ancestral Dragon to suppress Li Chang. Lord Ancestral Dragon said so, but the resources do not include divine arts and divine weapons. If you want it, you have to rely on your own abilities. As for soul stones, we weren't prepared for the sudden arrival of so many people. Let me ask Lord Wang Chang first. Li Chang said. Wang Chang. Everyone was stunned and asked suspiciously, who is Lord Wang Chang? Li Chang said in admiration, he is the strongest of our human race and also the strongest of this cultivation place. Great achievement Undead Realm. Great achievement Undead Realm. Qin Feiyang's pupils constricted. He thought that among the dragons, Yi Zhong was the only great achievement Undead Realm expert, but he did not expect there to be another one. The foundation of the dragons was indeed unfathomable. The others were also shocked. They never expected that there would be such a terrifying existence in this cultivation place. You guys find a cave to settle down first. After I discuss with Lord Wang Chang, I will inform you. After Li Chang finished speaking, he rose into the air and flew towards the highest peak not far away. Qin Feiyang followed his gaze. On the peak of the mountain, he could vaguely see a very ordinary straw hut. However, he did not sense anyone's aura on the mountain peak. Presumably, this Lord Wang Chang was a very low-profile person and did not release the slightest bit of aura. Since we're already here, let's take things as they come. Don't think too much about it. Hurry up and pick a cave abode. Let's settle down first. A slender purple-clothed youth turned around to look at everyone and smiled warmly. This person had the cultivation of the Nine Heavens realm perfection, and he looked a little harmless. However, would a truly kind human choose to be the dragon's lackeys? Definitely not. Because once they chose to follow the dragons, they would become the enemy of mankind. Therefore, this purple-clothed youth was not as simple as he seemed on the surface. This person was definitely someone who was two-faced and had a dark heart. Qin Feiyang glanced at the purple-clothed youth and silently remembered this person. Everyone began to choose their cave abodes. There was nothing to be picky about. This was because all cave dwellings, crystal veins, and spirit veins had the same energy. However, there was one thing that was unavoidable. A contest. No matter where it was, there would always be competition between people. This might be the nature of humans, always wanting to be superior to others. Therefore, in the eyes of some people, the higher one stood, the higher one's status would be. Therefore, those who were more competitive would choose a cave abode that was in a higher position. Just like that purple-clothed youth. He chose a cave abode at the top of a giant mountain next to him. Standing at the entrance of the cave abode, he even turned around and looked down at Qin Feiyang and the others. Not only was there a trace of disdain in his eyes, but there was also a natural arrogance. How arrogant! A black-clothed youth beside Qin Feiyang muttered in a low voice. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and could not help but turn to look at the black-clothed youth. Brother, why did you enter the Divine Dragon Island? The black-clothed youth also noticed Qin Feiyang's gaze and turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked. What about you? Qin Feiyang asked. Me? The black-clothed youth was stunned and said in a low voice, of course it's for cultivation resources. In that case, you follow the dragons, but you don't really want to serve the dragons? Qin Feiyang frowned. Sure. The black-clothed youth hurriedly made a shushing gesture and carefully glanced at the people around him. Seeing that no one had noticed, he heaved a sigh of relief. Immediately after. The black-clothed youth looked at Qin Feiyang and said discontentedly, "Brother, do you want to kill me? How can you say that?" He. Qin Feiyang smiled and did not speak again. The black-clothed youth said unhappily, "You haven't answered me yet. When I came to the Divine Dragon Island, I naturally followed the dragons and pledged my loyalty to the dragons, because the dragons have always been my faith." Qin Feiyang said these words that went against his heart without blushing or skipping a beat. "Faith?" The black-clothed youth was surprised and shook his head. "Although we are all followers of the dragons, I'm afraid you're the first person to treat the dragons as faith." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The black-clothed youth looked deeply at Qin Feiyang and reached out his hand. "I am a disciple of the Southern Dragon God Palace, Li Xiaofan. I hope brother will take care of me in the future." Qin Feiyang did not want to pay attention to this person. But this person seemed to be naturally familiar with him. Qin Feiyang thought for a moment, then reached out his hand and shook hands with Li Xiaofan, and smiled. "I am from the Northern Dragon God Palace, called Wang Xiaoer. Aya, both of our names have the word Xiao, it seems that we are really fated." Li Xiaofan smiled in surprise. "Indeed." Qin Feiyang nodded. Li Xiaofan said, "Then brother Wang, we are friends from now on. If there are any benefits, don't forget me." "Friends?" Qin Feiyang murmured and waved his hand. "Not at all, I will have to trouble Brother Li to take care of me in the future." "Brother Wang, you must be joking. With my cultivation, I am not qualified to take care of you." Li Xiaofan shook his head. Qin Feiyang began to size up Li Xiaofan's cultivation after hearing this. His cultivation was not weak. Peak 9 Heaven's Realm. "Brother Li, you must be joking." Qin Feiyang shook his head with a wry smile. A Peak 9 Heaven's Realm cultivator needed his care? Do you think a serious person like me would joke? To be honest brother Wang, I can feel that although our cultivation is the same, your strength is definitely stronger than mine. Li Xiaofan laughed in a low voice. "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. He could even feel that? Did he really think he was a 3-year-old child that could be easily fooled? "Of course. My sixth sense is very accurate." Li Xiaofan nodded with a serious expression. Qin Feiyang glanced at Li Xiaofan, then looked at the purple-clothed young man and asked in a low voice, "Is he strong?" "Not bad. But not as strong as you and me." Li Xiaofan glanced at the purple-clothed young man and said. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed, cupping his hands, "Sorry to disturb you." After saying that, he walked towards a mountain ridge on his left without looking back. This Li Xiaofan was simply a fraud. It was better to stay away from such a person. "Brother Wang, what do you mean?" Li Xiaofan caught up and frowned. "You don't think I am fooling you, do you?" "No, no." Qin Feiyang waved his hand. "With your attitude, you still dare to say no?" Li Xiaofan was dissatisfied. "Brother, I am very busy. Can you stop bothering me?" Qin Feiyang was helpless. Li Xiaofan shook his head and sighed. "I wanted to be friends with you sincerely, but you think I am crazy. How sad." Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. What kind of person was this? They didn't seem to be familiar with each other. Ignoring Li Xiaofan, Qin Feiyang passed through the forest and finally arrived at the mountain ridge. The mountain ridge was more than 100 feet high, like a giant python, winding up and down. On the mountain, there were hundreds of cave residences of various sizes. But here, he couldn't even sense a single aura. It was quiet all around. Qin Feiyang glanced at the mountain ridge, then walked toward the cave residence at the bottom. "Brother Wang, I am right next to you. Call me if you need anything." Li Xiaofan rolled his eyes and ran to a cave residence next to Qin Feiyang, grinning at Qin Feiyang. "Okay." Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and strode into the cave residence. Inside the cave residence, about 100 feet, the ground and walls were inlaid with a kind of black stone slab. Other than that, there were no other decorations. It looked very simple. However, for Qin Feiyang, this cave residence didn't mean much. Because even if he was cultivating, he would go to the castle to cultivate. This cave abode was nothing more than a place to deceive others. At the entrance of the cave residence, there was a black stone door. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the stone door immediately closed. The entire cave residence immediately fell into darkness. Subsequently, he leaned against the wall and lowered his head to ponder. Although he had successfully sneaked into the Divine Dragon Island, how could he inquire about Yi Shui, and the other two? One had to know. This was the Divine Dragon Island, the headquarters of the dragons. Everything must be under the control of the dragons. Moreover, although there were 2 million people who entered the Divine Dragon Island this time, almost no one knew that the chief pavilion master, Yi Shui, and Old Master Yi were on the Divine Dragon Island. So, once he asked someone to inquire about it, it would definitely arouse suspicion. And if he slowly searched alone, the Divine Dragon Island was so big, how long would it take to find them? He didn't have time to waste like this. After all, he still had to plan how to escape the Divine Dragon Island. Headache. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead. Although he had sneaked in, he was at his wit's end. Suddenly, he thought of Yi Zhong and immediately sent a voice transmission. "Master, you are more familiar with the Divine Dragon Island and know about Long Zun. Can you guess where Long Zun might have locked them up? The most likely place is the Divine Prison. But that's not necessarily the case. We have to investigate before we know." Yi Zhong's voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. Divine Prison? Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's right. But this divine prison is located below the sacred mountain of the dragons. There are supreme experts guarding it, and Long Zun has personally set up a barrier. It's almost impossible to sneak in. Yi Zhong said. Divine prison, Qin Feiyang muttered. It would definitely not work if he asked his master to do it now. After all, in the eyes of the dragons, his master had already fallen. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang thought of Li Chang again. This person might really be able to make an entry point. Chapter 2846. Then how much does Master know about Li Chang? Qin Feiyang asked secretly. Li Chang, Yi Zhong pondered for a while and said, "This old man has watched this person grow up." Qin Feiyang said, "So, Master must know him very well?" Sort of. The reason this person entered the Dragon God Palace back then was to take revenge. Yi Zhong said. Revenge? Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's right. Back then, his family was considered a rich and powerful family in the north. But because of some personal grudges, his family was exterminated, and he was the only one who survived. You should be able to imagine the feeling of being exterminated. And the people who exterminated his family didn't let him go. They have been chasing him. Forced to enter the Dragon God Palace, he chose to enter it. This person's talent is not bad. Relying on the resources of the Dragon God Palace, he smoothly stepped into the half-step invincible realm. You should be able to imagine what happened later without this old man saying. He went to take revenge, and then this old man brought him to Divine Dragon Island. Because of the 4 Dragon God Palaces, anyone who breaks through to the half-step invincible realm has to enter Divine Dragon Island. Yi Zhong transmitted. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization and asked, so, he entered the Dragon God Palace because he had no other choice? That's right. In fact, when he broke through to the half-step invincible realm, this old man had already seen that he didn't want to enter Divine Dragon Island. He even wanted to leave the Dragon God Palace. But he also knew that the dragons wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. After all, he could have such achievements because of the dragon's nurturing. Moreover, the divine stone of fate controlled his divine soul. He didn't dare to resist. Yi Zhong said. In other words, he entered Divine Dragon Island because he was forced to? Qin Feiyang asked. Yes. Yi Zhong responded. The corners of Qin Feiyang's mouth lifted slightly as he secretly laughed. Then it seems that we can indeed start from him. I won't object to you doing this, but you must ensure his safety. After all, his life has already been very difficult. Yi Zhong said. I will. Qin Feiyang replied. Furthermore, on Divine Dragon Island, unless there is no other choice, do not enter the ancient castle or the Black Tortoise world. Yi Zhong reminded. Why? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. You don't know Long Zun's ability? As long as any spatial divine item is exposed, it will not be able to escape her eyes. Yi Zhong said. I know that. But this ability of hers needs to be seen with the naked eye. She's not in a cultivation place right now, so she shouldn't need to be so careful. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Yi Zhong said, then how do you know that she's not hiding in the dark and watching you guys? This, Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's right. No one knew if Long Zun was spying on them in the dark. In short, it's better to be careful. Yi Zhong said. Okay. Qin Feiyang replied and transmitted his voice, then where did Yi Shui, and old master Yi live in the past? Wait a moment, I'll draw a map of Divine Dragon Island for you, so that it'll be convenient for you to act in the future. Yi Zhong secretly said. Map? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned, and his heart was immediately overjoyed. With a map, it would indeed be much more convenient. A moment later, Qin Feiyang's mind moved, and a map immediately appeared in the void in front of him. Qin Feiyang lowered his head to check. On the map, the entire Divine Dragon Island was lifelike, as if it was a copy of Divine Dragon Island. In other words, this was a map of the entire Divine Dragon Island. I've specially marked the more important places on Divine Dragon Island, and there's an explanation below. Take a closer look. Destroy it after you're done. Yi Zhong said. Thank you, Master. Qin Feiyang secretly thanked him, then sat cross-legged on the ground and carefully looked at it. The entire Divine Dragon Island was like a huge divine dragon, lying in the middle of the inland sea. And Divine Dragon Island was divided into two areas. Outer area, inner area. The outer area was the home of the dragon's various races. There were a total of 10 dragons, which meant that there were different races. That is, the Fire Dragon Clan, the Golden Dragon Clan, the White Dragon Clan, the Blood Dragon Clan, and so on. The 10 races were scattered in various places in the outer area, surrounding the inner area. And the inner area was where Long Zun was. Right now, Qin Feiyang's cultivation place was also in the inner area. And it was not far from the Dragon Palace. With Qin Feiyang's speed, it would take at most half an hour. And the Dragon Palace was Long Zun's bedroom. That was to say, this cultivation place was right under Long Zun's nose. To Qin Feiyang, this was not good news at all. Because his cultivation was only at the 9th heaven realm, he needed half an hour to rush from the cultivation place to the Dragon Palace. But with Long Zun's cultivation, if he wanted to come to the cultivation place, it would only take a few blinks of an eye. So, in the future, he could not be careless in the cultivation place, because Long Zun could come at any time. And he could not make too much of a commotion. After all, at this distance, if there was any commotion, Long Zun would be alerted immediately. And in the inner area, other than the Dragon Palace and the cultivation place, the most important place was the Sacred Land. No. The sacred land was more important than the Dragon Palace on Divine Dragon Island. The dragon's sacred land was located in the center of the entire Divine Dragon Island. And the sacred mountain, where the sovereign divine weapon was located, was at the center of the sacred land. In short, the layout of Divine Dragon Island was divided into two major areas. The outer area had 10 major clans. The inner area had the cultivation place, the Dragon Palace, the sacred mountain, and the sacred mountain. As for the divine prison that Yi Zhong spoke of, it was located beneath the sacred mountain. To be honest, entering the divine prison was harder than ascending to the heavens. First of all, the sacred mountain had the sovereign divine weapon. Think about it, could you sneak into the divine prison under the nose of the sovereign divine weapon? It was definitely impossible. Secondly, the sacred mountain had supreme experts. Therefore, the plan to sneak into the divine prison could be announced as impossible. Qin Feiyang looked at a particularly eye-catching mark on the map. This place was only half an hour away from the Dragon Palace. And this was the courtyard where Yi Shui, and Old Master Yi used to live. But there was a big problem here. Because the place where Yi Shui, and Old Master Yi lived was in the opposite direction of the cultivation place. For example, the Dragon Palace was placed in the center, the cultivation place was on the left, and the place where Yi Shui, lived was on the right. The three places were connected in a straight line. In other words, if he wanted to go to the place where Yi Shui, lived, he had to go through the Dragon Palace without taking a detour. Going through the Dragon Palace, that was absolutely impossible. Because it was too risky. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and sent a voice transmission, "Master, what is Longzuan's cultivation level?" "Perfection imperishable realm." Yi Zhong said in a deep voice. "So strong?" Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up, his face full of shock. "And according to what I know, she has already started to break through to the half-step sovereign realm." Yi Zhong said again. "Half-step sovereign realm?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Half-step sovereign realm is the realm above the imperishable realm. At this realm, her strength is comparable to a fully awakened heaven-defying divine weapon. Yi Zhong said. "What?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Half-step sovereign realm was comparable to a fully awakened heaven-defying divine weapon. If Longzuan really stepped into the half-step sovereign realm, wouldn't they be in danger? Don't be nervous. It's not that easy to break through to the sovereign realm. Yi Zhong comforted. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. The sovereign realm has nothing to do with divine power. Because the sovereign realm requires comprehension of the power of law. Yi Zhong said. Comprehension of the power of law? Qin Feiyang was even more puzzled. You should know that there are differences in comprehension of the power of law, right? Yi Zhong asked. I know this. It seems to be 6 stages. Beginner, initial, small success, large success, perfection, great perfection. Qin Feiyang said. He definitely didn't know this himself. He only heard it from Madman. That's right. The power of law has a total of 6 stages. And if you want to step into the sovereign realm, you have to reach the 6th stage, which is perfection of the power of law. Yi Zhong said. Perfection of the power of law? Qin Feiyang was stunned and hurriedly said, perfection of the power of law, doesn't it mean that you have completely grasped the power of law? Yes. Yi Zhong said. That is to say, after completely comprehending a power of law, you can step into the sovereign realm? Qin Feiyang said. It's like this. Yi Zhong nodded. So stepping into the sovereign realm is related to the power of law. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization and asked, what if you don't comprehend the power of law? If you don't comprehend the power of law, you can forget about stepping into the sovereign realm forever. Yi Zhong said. I see, Qin Feiyang muttered. Sigh, not to mention those who don't comprehend the power of law. Even those like us who have comprehended the power of law may not be able to step into the sovereign realm forever. Because the profound meaning of the power of law is too difficult. Just like this old man. I have comprehended the law of fire for so many years, but until now, I have been stuck at the second stage. If I don't have any fortuitous encounters, such as the guidance of an expert or the inheritance of a certain expert, this old man is afraid that I can only stay at the second stage for the rest of my life. Yi Zhong sighed. Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. Even with Master's temperament, facing the power of law, he was actually so desperate. It seemed that to completely comprehend a power of law was more difficult than he imagined. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang seemed to have thought of something and asked, Master, what if a person has two types of power of law? It's the same. As long as you completely comprehend one of the power of law, you can step into the sovereign realm. However, a person who has two types of power of law, is there such a person in this world? Yi Zhong said. There is. Qin Feiyang secretly smiled. Who? Why don't this old man know? Yi Zhong was shocked and quickly asked. It's your disciple, me. Qin Feiyang chuckled. You? Yi Zhong was stunned for a moment in the ancient castle and then said, how is that possible? Didn't you comprehend the power of law of light? Would this disciple lie to you? Before returning to the ancient world, I made a trip back to the great Qin and by chance, comprehended the law of cause and effect. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. What? You actually comprehended the law of cause and effect. Yi Zhong's body that was formed by his god's soul suddenly trembled, his eyes filled with disbelief. Chapter 2847. Yes. If you don't believe me, you can ask Yi Cheng. Qin Feiyang secretly said. This old man doesn't doubt it. But, this is really unbelievable. A person can actually comprehend two types of law. This is the first time this old man has heard of such a thing. What's more terrifying is that it's actually the law of cause and effect. Yi Zhong said. Is the law of cause and effect very strong? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Although he comprehended the law of cause and effect, he wasn't very clear about the specifics. You should know that there are strong and weak law of cause and effect. The law of cause and effect is the strongest law of cause and effect in this world. Of course, it's just one of them. As far as this old man knows, since ancient times, no one has ever comprehended the law of cause and effect. Yi Zhong said. So strong? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Very powerful. Kid, you're really lucky. Yi Zhong said enviously. You flatter me, I'm just lucky. Qin Feiyang chuckled, but the joy and pride in his words couldn't be concealed. Lucky? Yi Zhong shook his head. Although comprehending the law of cause and effect was indeed related to luck, the most important thing was still one's own conditions. Qin Feiyang could comprehend two types of law of cause and effect was one of the strongest law of cause and effect. One could say that this child was already the number one person in the world. As Yi Cheng said, this disciple was indeed worthy of being proud of. Master, how much else do you know about the law of cause and effect? Tell me all of it. Qin Feiyang said with a face full of curiosity. Actually, this old man doesn't know much. I just occasionally heard about it from Long Zun. If you want to know, you have to ask Long Zun. Yi Zhong said. Ask Long Zun? Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback and smiled bitterly. Forget it then. This disciple still wants to live for a few more years. Actually, there's no need for you to inquire so much right now. Focus on comprehending these two types of laws first. As long as you comprehend it, you will be able to step into the sovereign realm. Once you step into the sovereign realm, you will be able to go to a bigger world and see more experts. At that time, you will naturally understand everything that you don't know. Yi Zhong said. That makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded and said inwardly, "Thank you, Master, for your teachings." Teach? Yi Zhong shook his head and smiled bitterly. I'm really ashamed. Whether it's talent or intelligence, you're better than this old man. This old man can't teach you anything at all. Of course. For example, I need your advice on how to deal with things and so on. Qin Feiyang said. I guess this is all I can teach you. Yi Zhong shook his head. Can you not be so modest? If you don't have any standards, why would the two ancestors value you so much? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Yi Zhong couldn't help but laugh. All right then, you continue to reconstruct your divine soul and physical body. I'll think of a way to go to the place where Yi Shui, and the others are staying. Qin Feiyang said. Be careful then. Yi Zhong reminded. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked with a stunned expression, Master, can the altar be opened on Divine Dragon Island? No. Yi Zhong said. How troublesome. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead. If he couldn't open the altar, he had to sneak over step by step. Who knew what would happen along the way? But if he could open the altar, as long as he knew the coordinates, he could immediately run over without anyone noticing. All right then. I won't disturb you any further. I have to think about it. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he looked at the map again and pondered. Time passed bit by bit. Outside. Dawn arrived. The sun rose slowly. Under the reflection of the morning sun, Divine Dragon Island became even more magnificent. Everyone, come out. Suddenly. Li Chang shouted. Inside the cave. Qin Feiyang was stunned and a hint of suspicion flashed in his eyes. He got up and waved his hand to destroy the map. Then, he opened the door of the cave and strode out. Everything on the map had been imprinted in his mind, so there was no need for it. Morning. Li Xiaofei also happened to walk out of the cave. Looking at Qin Feiyang, he waved his hand naturally and smiled. Morning. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Li Xiaofei walked up and put his arm around Qin Feiyang's shoulder. Qin Feiyang didn't expect this person to be so casual and instinctively resisted. But on second thought, perhaps it was easier to hide one's identity with someone around. Because sometimes, if one was too arrogant, it would be easier to attract the attention of others. Li Xiaofei said, Brother Wang, believe me, I'm really not a fraud. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He almost forgot about it, but he didn't expect this person to still remember it. It's true. My sixth sense has never been wrong. Li Xiaofei patted his chest and made a solemn vow. Good, good, good. I believe you, I believe you. Qin Feiyang nodded helplessly. If he didn't believe him, he was afraid this person wouldn't stop. Do you really believe me? Li Xiaofei looked at him doubtfully. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Li Xiaofei suddenly smiled, turned his head and glanced at the mountain behind, and said, It seems that there are only two of us here. Isn't this good? Qin Feiyang smiled. It's too quiet and boring. Li Xiaofei pursed his lips and then asked, Why don't we move to a crowded place? Not interested. I'm here to cultivate, not to join in the fun. Qin Feiyang shook his head. That's true. Li Xiaofei nodded and said with a smile, Then, let's rely on each other here. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded with a wry smile. With such a scammer by his side, he really wouldn't be bored in the future. Soon. The two of them walked to the central area of the cultivation ground, where a dense crowd of people had already gathered. Li Chang stood in the air. After discussing with Lord Wang Chang and consulting with Lord Long Zun, we have decided to set up a Deacon's Hall here. It's the same as the Deacon's Hall in the Dragon God Palace, responsible for distributing resources and other matters. Li Chang said expressionlessly. Then when can we receive the resources? Everyone didn't care about the Deacon's Hall at all, as long as they got the resources. Li Chang glanced at the mountains and rivers below, and suddenly locked onto a giant mountain not far away. Following that, Li Chang took a step forward and landed on the peak of the mountain. Then, he used his great mana and quickly built a black hall on the peak of the mountain. Following that, Li Chang walked into the hall and took out a desk and a chair. You can come up now. Don't worry, 2 million people. It will take a long time to distribute resources. Come one by one. Those who are not in a hurry can go back to the cave first and come back later. When Li Chang's voice came out from the hall, many people couldn't wait to fly towards the peak of the mountain. Brother Wang, let's go too. Li Xiaofei pulled Qin Feiyang and ran towards the peak of the mountain. Lord Li Chang won't swallow your resources, what's the hurry? Qin Feiyang was speechless and stopped in the air. Aren't you curious how many soul stones the dragons will give us? Li Xiaofei asked. What's there to be curious about? We'll know in the end anyway. Qin Feiyang shook his head. You're too calm. All right. I'll go up first. When I get the resources, I'll come back to you. After Li Xiaofei finished speaking, he rushed to the peak of the mountain with the others. Just for these resources, is it worth it to follow the dragons and sell your self-esteem? Qin Feiyang sighed secretly. To be honest, no matter how many soul stones they gave, he didn't care. First of all, he didn't lack soul stones at all. Secondly, he didn't need the dragons as charity. Or he could just rob them. That would be satisfying. Without staying any longer, Qin Feiyang returned to the cave. After pondering for a while, he finally gritted his teeth and activated the concealment technique. According to the map in his memory, he rushed in the direction of the Dragon Palace. Of course, he couldn't go directly to the Dragon Palace, but he was going to bypass the Dragon Palace. It took half an hour to go from the cultivation place to the Dragon Palace, and another half an hour to go from the Dragon Palace to the residence of Yi Shui, and Old Master Yi. In total, it was exactly 1 hour. If he took a detour, the time needed would naturally be extended. But now the concealment technique could be activated twice a day, and each time it could last for 2 hours. It was completely enough for a round trip. He was afraid that there would be an accident on the way. Chapter 2848. Although it was his first time coming to Divine Dragon Island, with the map drawn by Yizhong, Qin Feiyang was very familiar with every place. Not long after leaving the cultivation place, Qin Feiyang entered a vast mountain. There were plants, lakes, and rivers in the mountain. But there was not a single beast. However, there were many small animals. For example, there were lively little rabbits, dancing white cranes, and colorful birds. They made this Divine Dragon Island look like a fairyland. What's the situation? Qin Feiyang frowned. On such a big island, except for these small animals, why was there not even a single beast? Later, he couldn't help but be curious and asked Yizhong. It turned out that Divine Dragon Island prohibited beasts from entering. In other words, the entire Divine Dragon Island only had dragons and a small number of humans, as well as these cute little animals. Even in the past, Divine Dragon Island didn't have these small animals. Later, Princess Dragons felt that this Divine Dragon Island was too deserted, so she went outside to catch some small animals and raise them on Divine Dragon Island. In short, except for dragons, any creature that wanted to step into the Dragon God Palace must first get the permission of Dragon Sovereign. The journey was smooth beyond imagination. After about half an hour, Qin Feiyang finally saw a courtyard. It's here. According to the map, Yi Shui, or an old man Yi, used to live here. Qin Feiyang stood in front of the courtyard and didn't rush in. He first carefully sensed. However, in the courtyard, he didn't sense the aura of the two. Could it be that they are no longer here? Qin Feiyang secretly muttered and quietly entered the courtyard. He searched inside and out, but there was no one in the courtyard. How is it? Yi Cheng's voice rang in Qin Feiyang's mind. No one. Qin Feiyang secretly said. How could there be no one? Yi Cheng was surprised. Qin Feiyang remained silent. He turned around and entered a bedroom. There was no one in the bedroom, and the bedding was neatly folded. Just as Qin Feiyang was about to leave, he suddenly noticed a jade pendant on a cabinet beside the bed. Qin Feiyang walked over suspiciously and grabbed the jade pendant on the cabinet. This jade pendant was about half the size of a baby's palm, and it was engraved with the pattern of a divine phoenix. There was also the word Yi in the middle. Yi Cheng, is this jade pendant Yi Shui's? Qin Feiyang asked secretly. What jade pendant? Yi Cheng was bewildered. Qin Feiyang described the shape of the jade pendant to Yi Cheng. Right. This is Shui's. Although it's just an ordinary piece of jade, it means a lot to Shui. Because it was a gift from her parents when she was born. Ever since her parents died, she has been carrying this jade pendant with her. Yi Cheng said hurriedly. The jade pendant is here, but she's not. What's going on? Qin Feiyang frowned, turned around, and walked out of the room. He left the courtyard and looked around, but he still didn't find Yi Shui and old Master Yi. Feiyang, there's a cultivation room under the hall in the courtyard. Have you looked for it? Yi Zhong's voice sounded. Cultivation room? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He returned to the courtyard, entered the hall, and scanned the floor. Yi Zhong said, this cultivation room is used by Shui to cultivate. Quickly take a look and see if she's inside. How do I open the secret door? Qin Feiyang asked secretly. Do you see the vase in the left corner of the hall? Yi Zhong asked. Qin Feiyang turned around and saw a blue and white porcelain vase that was as tall as a person in the left corner of the hall. There's a vase. Qin Feiyang replied. Turn it gently. Yi Zhong said. Okay. Qin Feiyang stepped forward, held the vase, and exerted a little force. As the vase turned, a crack appeared on the floor of the hall, and then it slowly opened. Not long after, a cultivation room of about 10 feet in size appeared in front of him. Qin Feiyang stood above and scanned the cultivation room below. There was nothing in the cultivation room except for a futon. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, Master, they're not in the cultivation room. Then where could they be? Yi Zhong was surprised. Could it be that they've been killed? Yi Cheng suddenly said. Impossible. Longzuan isn't such a heartless person. Yi Zhong said. Big brother, you're still protecting her at this point? Yi Cheng said angrily. Yi Zhong was silent. Yi Cheng, don't worry. I didn't find any bloodstains or traces of battle in this courtyard. I think they should be safe. Qin Feiyang comforted him. In fact, even he wasn't sure. Because there were no bloodstains or traces of battle here, it couldn't prove anything at all. After all, given Longzuan's strength, he could kill Yi Shui and Yi Cheng without leaving any traces. Taking a step back. If the two of them were really safe, where would they be now? One had to know. This happened last night. In other words, only one night had passed. Tada! Just as Qin Feiyang was pondering, there was a sudden sound of footsteps outside. Qin Feiyang immediately shivered and quickly closed the secret door. He calmed down and hid behind the vase. He was extremely nervous and there was a trace of doubt in his eyes. Who would come here at this time? Very soon. The door was pushed open and a gust of fragrant wind blew into the hall. He saw a woman in white standing outside the door. Yi Shui. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. That's right. This woman was Yi Shui. But just as he was about to greet Yi Shui, he suddenly realized that there was a young man standing at the entrance of the courtyard. This young man was about 1.8 meters tall. He was wearing a white long robe and his face was like jade. He had an elegant demeanor. What a powerful aura. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't see through this young man's cultivation at all. However, this person's aura contained a pure dragon power. Obviously, his real body was a divine dragon. And this young man obviously came with Yi Shui. Yi Shui stood at the door and glanced at the hall. Her eyes were extremely melancholic. She then strode into the hall and headed to the second floor. Qin Feiyang glanced at the young man outside the courtyard. Then, he stealthily followed him. Very soon, Yi Shui entered the bedroom and glanced at the cabinet beside the bed. Yes? At that moment, she was stunned. Where was the jade pendant? She clearly remembered that she left it here before she left. Qin Feiyang saw Yi Shui's appearance and knew that she was here to get the jade pendant. And the jade pendant was now in his hands. Are you looking for this? Just as Yi Shui was confused, a voice suddenly rang in her mind. Immediately after, she saw the jade pendant appear in front of her out of thin air. Yi Shui was shocked. Don't make a sound. Qin Feiyang hurriedly transmitted his voice and then grabbed Yi Shui. Yi Shui immediately entered stealth mode. At the same time, she also saw Qin Feiyang. A trace of killing intent appeared in Yi Shui's eyes. Killing intent? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and quickly said, no matter what Long Zun said to you, please calm down. Yi Shui didn't make a sound and just stared at Qin Feiyang. Although Qin Feiyang used to get along with her as Li Bu, she also knew what Qin Feiyang looked like. After all, there were rumors about Qin Feiyang everywhere in the Divine Land these years. Moreover, back then, she even saved Qin Feiyang. At that time, Qin Feiyang was in a coma. So at a glance, she had already recognized Qin Feiyang. Shui, what's wrong? Outside. The young man in white also keenly felt Yi Shui's killing intent and hurriedly asked loudly. Qin Feiyang's expression changed slightly, and he could even sense that the young man in white had already entered the courtyard. Your grandfather is not dead. Give me some time to explain. Qin Feiyang hurriedly transmitted his voice. Grandfather is not dead. Yi Shui's eyes suddenly trembled. Please believe me. Qin Feiyang said. Yi Shui took a deep look at Qin Feiyang and then said, I just thought of grandfather and second grandfather's death and couldn't control the killing intent in my heart. It's nothing, you don't have to come in, I want to be alone for a while. All right then. The young man in white's voice sounded outside. Qin Feiyang walked to the window and saw the young man in white stop and sit at the stone table in the courtyard. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. What's going on? Yi Shui transmitted her voice. Seeing is believing, hearing is false. Qin Feiyang secretly smiled. With a thought, Yi Zhong and Yi Qing quietly appeared beside him. Grandfather, second grandfather, Yi Shui looked at the two of them and couldn't help but cry. Girl, it's been hard on you. Yi Zhong sighed and his eyes were full of self-blame. What's going on? Yi Shui looked at the two of them and asked. It's a long story, I'll tell you slowly when I have time. You just have to remember to listen to Qin Feiyang from now on. Yi Zhong transmitted his voice. Okay. Yi Shui nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at Yi Zhong and transmitted his voice to Yi Shui. What did Longzuan say to you after Master faked his death? Hearing this question, Yi Zhong looked at Yi Shui nervously and expectantly. Yi Shui tried to recall what had happened and briefly explained the situation to him. After hearing this, Yi Zhong's face turned pale. Yi Cheng looked at his elder brother and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He then looked at Yi Shui and transmitted his voice. Are you sure Longzuan said to take revenge on Qin Feiyang? Yes. Yi Shui nodded and said to herself, she also asked me and great-grandfather to go to the Dragon Palace and teach us cultivation personally. So you went to the Dragon Palace? Qin Feiyang came to a realization and secretly sneered. She asked you to go to the Dragon Palace not to teach you cultivation, but to spy on you. Yi Shui couldn't help but panic when she heard this. She originally thought that Longzuan was doing it for her own good, but she didn't expect that she was just using her. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Yi Zhong and transmitted his voice, Master, now that the truth is in front of you, you should give up now. Yi Zhong lowered his head and didn't say a word. If one took a closer look, they would see a hint of disappointment and pain between his brows. Chapter 28-49. What's wrong? Yi Shui looked at the three of them suspiciously. She didn't know about the relationship between Yi Zhong and Longzuan, so she was puzzled when she saw Yi Zhong's disappointed face. Qin Feiyang said to himself, Yi Cheng, accompany Master to the ancient castle. Okay. Yi Cheng nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and the two of them disappeared. It was obvious that Master had always had feelings for Longzuan. Although it was impossible for them to be together, at least he could always be by her side. For Master, he was already very satisfied to be able to protect her like this. But what he didn't expect was that after he faked his death, Longzuan wasn't sad at all. Instead, he used his death to make Yi Shui, and old Master Yi become his chess pieces for revenge. How could Master not be heartbroken in the face of such ruthlessness? Perhaps Longzuan had been using Master's feelings for her all along to make Master work for her. So now, Master must be feeling terrible. Qin Feiyang, Grandpa, what is he doing? Yi Shui was suspicious. Qin Feiyang said, children shouldn't ask too much about adult matters. Yi Shui rolled her eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang. She asked, are you really Li Bu, Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. You're really a bastard. Yi Shui cursed. Everyone in the Dragon God Palace was deceived by this guy. Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly and said to himself, then your great-grandfather is in the Dragon Palace now? Yes. Yi Shui nodded. Then who is the person outside? Qin Feiyang asked. Yi Shui said, he is Longzuan's son, the Prince of the Dragons. What? It's him. Qin Feiyang was shocked and couldn't help but walk to the window again and look at the young man in white. The young man sat at the stone table and looked into the distance. His expression was calm and he exuded a scholarly aura. If one didn't know this person's identity, just based on his temperament, no one would be able to resist or dislike him. This was completely different from the domineering dragons and Longzuan. What's his cultivation? Qin Feiyang asked secretly. He seems to be at the small success imperishable stage. Yi Shui transmitted her voice. What? Qin Feiyang was shocked. He said through sound transmission, when we were in the Nether King's Hell, Master and the Beast Emperor said that he had just entered the imperishable realm? I heard that he broke through to the initial imperishable stage a few years ago. Yi Shui thought to herself. Impressive. Qin Feiyang mumbled. This prince's cultivation was much stronger than the dragon princess's. Most importantly, the Beast Emperor had said that the Prince of Dragons possessed a heaven-defying divine art. If nothing unexpected happened, this person would definitely become a formidable opponent. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and thought, what about the Chief Pavilion Master? She's locked up in the divine prison. Yi Shui said. She's really in the divine prison? Qin Feiyang frowned. Originally, he still had some hope that the Chief Pavilion Master might not really be locked up in the divine prison. She might also be locked up in other places. But now Yi Shui's words had undoubtedly completely shattered the hope in his heart. Locked up in the divine prison, this was going to be difficult to handle. Yi Shui looked at Qin Feiyang with an inexplicable color in her eyes. She transmitted her voice, how did you sneak into the Divine Dragon Island? Did you sneak into the Divine Dragon Island to save us? If it wasn't to save you, why would I come to the Divine Dragon Island? Qin Feiyang angrily glared at her. When Yi Shui heard this, her cheeks immediately flushed red, and her heart was filled with joy. Why is your face red? Are you crazy? Qin Feiyang looked at her suspiciously. You're the one who's crazy. Yi Shui was stunned, and then she couldn't help but roll her eyes. What a blockhead. Shui, are you done? Outside. The voice of the Prince of Dragons sounded. It's about time. Yi Shui responded, then looked at Qin Feiyang, and said to herself, what should we do now? Do I still go to the Dragon Palace? Of course you have to go. If you don't go, Long Zun will definitely be suspicious. At that time, you and your great-grandfather might be in danger. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. But, Yi Shui was a little flustered. Don't panic. Just pretend that you haven't seen us. Also, you have to continue to hate me, it's best if you hate me so much that your teeth itch. This way, you won't be exposed. Qin Feiyang secretly said. But I can't hate you now. Yi Shui was a little troubled. Even if you can't hate me, you have to. Unless you want everyone to die here. Qin Feiyang said. Alright, I'll try my best. Yi Shui nodded helplessly. Not try your best, but you must do it. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Alright. Yi Shui nodded. Also, when you return to the Dragon Palace, don't tell your great-grandfather about us first. And don't think about going to the cultivation ground to look for me. After I think of a way to rescue the Chief Pavilion Master from the God's prison, I will go and pick you guys up. Qin Feiyang said. Shameless, who would think of looking for you? Yi Shui lowered her head and said with a red face. I'm serious, I'm not joking with you. Now, your every move is related to our life and death. Qin Feiyang frowned. Yi Shui was slightly stunned. She raised her head and looked at Qin Feiyang angrily. How could there be such a wooden man in the world? Do I have to say it out loud? Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice, by the way, did this Prince of Dragons inherit Long Zun's ability? What ability? Yi Shui was suspicious. It's the ability to hear other people's voice transmission and see the space divine items hidden in the void. Qin Feiyang said. It seems to be possible. Yi Shui nodded. Then it seems that I have to be more careful in the future. Qin Feiyang muttered. If he met Long Zun, the dragon's princess, and this Prince of Dragons, he must not send a sound transmission in front of them. Otherwise, nothing would be able to escape their prying eyes. Then. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, then hurry up and go. Yi Shui acted as if she didn't hear it. After pondering for a while, she mustered her courage and raised her head to look at Qin Feiyang, asking, You've been to hell for so many years, don't tell me you don't have anything else to say to me? Something else? What do you mean? Qin Feiyang had a puzzled look on his face. This is infuriating. Yi Shui stomped her feet, took the jade pendant, turned around and ran out. What's going on? Qin Feiyang scratched his head. You're out. When Yi Shui walked out of the courtyard, the Prince of Dragons immediately stood up with a gentle smile on his face. Yes. Yi Shui nodded, trying her best to make herself sad and depressed. It'll all pass. The Prince of Dragons walked up and comforted her. Thank you. Yi Shui forced a smile, turned her head to look at the courtyard, and left without looking back, accompanied by the Prince of Dragons. Qin Feiyang stood in front of the window the entire time, looking at the back view of the Prince of Dragons, his expression a little strange. This Prince of Dragons seemed to be interested in Yi Shui. Cultivation grounds. When Qin Feiyang calmly returned to the cultivation grounds, it was already almost noon. Everyone was still queuing up to receive their resources. Qin Feiyang looked from afar, then directly returned to his cave. This trip was not in vain. Not only did he resolve Yi Shui's misunderstanding of him, he also met the legendary Prince of Dragons. The most important thing was still his master. After knowing that Long Zun used Yi Shui and Old Man Yi, his master would definitely be disheartened. In this way, his master would naturally choose to stay in the Black Tortoise world in the future. His master's understanding of dragons far surpassed others. With his master's help, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. There was also the Beast Sovereign. The Beast Sovereign also knew dragons like the back of his hand. Unfortunately, the Beast Sovereign was still in hell. Brother Wang. Suddenly, Li Xiaofei's voice sounded outside the cave. When Qin Feiyang heard Li Xiaofei's voice, he couldn't help but frown. Isn't this person too familiar with him? He didn't know him at all before. Brother Wang, are you there? Li Xiaofei's voice sounded again. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the cave's stone door opened. At that moment, a figure ran into the cave at a flying speed. Who else could it be but Li Xiaofei? Qin Feiyang looked at Li Xiaofei, who looked very excited. What are you so happy about? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. Of course it's resources. Li Xiaofei took out a Qianquan bag from his arms and waved it in front of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang grabbed the Qianquan bag and looked at it. Don't say. It's really a lot, almost 1 million. Just 1 million. Li Xiaofei laughed. 1 million is indeed a lot, but for people of our cultivation level, it doesn't seem to be much, right? Qin Feiyang frowned. Of course. If it's only 1 million soul stones, of course I won't be so excited. What really makes me excited is that we can get 1 million soul stones every year. Li Xiaofei said. Every year? Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's right. Think about it, if we can get 1 million soul stones a year, then what about 10 years? 100 years? 1,000 years? In other words, in the future, we won't have to worry about soul stones anymore. Li Xiaofei said excitedly. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched slightly. This time, the dragons really put in a lot of effort. Although 1 million soul stones is a small amount, it's a terrifying number when added up. Not to mention. This time, 2 million people came. 1 million per person, 10 million per person, 100 million per person, it's really unimaginable. This also proves how terrifying the foundation of the dragons is. Because even he can't take out such a big sum now. You should go and get it too. Li Xiaofei put away the Qianquan ring and urged Qin Feiyang. They won't run away, what's the hurry? Qin Feiyang shook his head. How can you still be so calm, are you still human? Li Xiaofei looked at Qin Feiyang strangely. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said, is there anything else? If not, don't disturb my cultivation. Fine. I'm worried for nothing. Li Xiaofei pursed his lips and turned to walk out. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and the stone door closed, then lowered his head and muttered. Sacred grounds, holy mountain, Yi Shui, or an old man Yi had already been found, so the only thing left was the chief pavilion master. As long as he saved the chief pavilion master, he could plan to leave the divine dragon island. However, the holy mountain had a ruler's divine weapon, and the sacred ground was also guarded by a supreme expert. How could he sneak in without anyone noticing? Half a month later, Qin Feiyang finally walked out of the cave and flew towards the duty hall. At this time, the duty hall was empty and seemed incomparably cold. Qin Feiyang walked to the front of the door, looked at Li Chang who was sitting inside, and bowed. Disciple Wang Xiao, greets Lord Li Chang. Li Chang was slightly startled. He raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang, and said, "Come in." Qin Feiyang walked into the duty hall. Li Chang said in an office tone, "Name, cultivation, which divine dragon island are you from?" "Wang Xiao, Peak 9 Heavens Realm, from the Northern Dragon God Palace." Qin Feiyang replied one by one. "Northern Dragon God Palace?" Li Chang was startled. He raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang, and said, "So, you have also seen Qin Feiyang with your own eyes?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. Li Chang asked, "Then aren't you afraid?" "What's there to be afraid of?" Qin Feiyang did not understand. "You have seen Qin Feiyang before, so you naturally know his methods. And if you enter the divine dragon island, it means that you will become his enemy in the future. At that time, what will you use to face him?" Li Chang said. "Courage, of course." Qin Feiyang said without hesitation. "Courage," Li Chang muttered, and shook his head. "These days, I have asked a lot of people, and their answers are almost the same as yours. I just don't know, if you really have the courage to face Qin Feiyang head-on." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and asked with a smile, "Then what about you, Lord?" "Me?" Li Chang was startled. Chapter 2850. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. "What do you mean?" Li Chang frowned. Qin Feiyang asked, "Do you have the courage to face Qin Feiyang?" "What a joke." Li Chang was so angry that he laughed and said, "I am a dignified expert of the undead stage, so what if you are a supreme expert? Can you beat Qin Feiyang's heaven-defying artifact?" Qin Feiyang directly interrupted Li Chang's words and said lightly. Hearing this, Li Chang's body suddenly stiffened. What a joke, who could beat a heaven-defying artifact? Even Lord Long Zun couldn't. "See, you don't have much confidence," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "Are you laughing at me?" Li Chang raised his eyebrows. "No, no." Qin Feiyang hurriedly shook his head and cupped his hands. "If I have offended you, I hope you can forgive me." Li Chang glanced at Qin Feiyang, took out a Qianquan bag, and threw it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang caught the Qianquan bag, checked it a little, and smiled. "Thank you, Lord." "Go." Li Chang waved his hand. Qin Feiyang turned and walked out of the door, walked to the door and looked outside. Seeing that there was no one outside, he stopped and turned to look at Li Chang, smiled and said, "Tonight in the early morning, if you have time, you can come to me and we can have a good chat." After saying that, without waiting for Li Chang to respond, he turned and left without looking back. Li Chang looked up at Qin Feiyang's back, and a hint of suspicion flashed in his eyes. After leaving the deacon hall, Qin Feiyang went straight back to the cave. In the blink of an eye, a day passed, and dawn came. Inside the cave, there were 2 more chairs and a tea table. On the tea table, a pot of tea had been brewed, and there was an intoxicating tea fragrance. At this moment, Qin Feiyang was sitting on one of the chairs, squinting his eyes, as if he was taking a nap. The entire cave, except for the fragrance of tea, was quiet. Time passed by. About an hour passed. Seeing that there was still no movement outside, Qin Feiyang opened his eyes, a trace of disappointment in them. Looks like this Li Chang. Just as he thought of this, there was a weak knock on the door. Qin Feiyang immediately turned his head to look at the stone door, and a smile crept into his eyes. With a wave of his hand, the stone door slowly opened, and a familiar figure immediately entered his sight. Who else could it be but Li Chang? I thought that you didn't care about it and didn't want to come. Please come in. Qin Feiyang got up to greet him. Li Chang glanced at the cave and walked in. Qin Feiyang waved his hand again, and the cave slowly closed. Sir, please take a seat. Qin Feiyang pointed to the seat opposite him. Li Chang sat on the chair and looked at the teapot on the table. A trace of bewilderment immediately crept into his eyes. This tea aroma, what is it? Qin Feiyang looked at Li Chang suspiciously. Where did you get this tea? Li Chang frowned. I planted it myself. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. I planted it myself. Li Chang stared at the teapot and muttered to himself. He suddenly raised his head and stared at Qin Feiyang, saying, I have drunk this tea before. You have? Qin Feiyang was stunned. This was impossible. In the entire divine land, only he had this heavenly deity do. Some time ago, I went to visit old Master Yi. At that time, old Master Yi entertained me with this tea. According to old Master Yi, this was given to him by Li Bu, the disciple of Chief Hall Master Yi Zhong. This Li Bu, is Qin Feiyang in disguise. And now, you're saying that you grew this tea. Then wouldn't you be admitting your identity without being pressed? Li Chang said. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He really didn't expect this. However, he did give a jar of heavenly deity due to old Master Yi. You are Qin Feiyang. Li Chang got up, stared at Qin Feiyang and said word by word. Qin Feiyang smiled, got up and cupped his hands, saying, Junior Qin Feiyang greets Senior. You are indeed Qin Feiyang. Li Chang's eyes trembled. It was just a speculation before, but he didn't expect it to be this person. Yes, I am Qin Feiyang. Moreover, even if you didn't see through me, I will take the initiative to confess my identity to you. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. Why? Li Chang frowned. One had to know. The dragons hated Qin Feiyang to the core. And he was now a member of the dragons. Qin Feiyang actually took the initiative to confess his identity to him? Wasn't this courting death? Because I know you. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. You know me? Li Chang frowned. Yes. Being chased by my enemies and having no way out, I had no choice but to enter the Dragon God Palace. After entering the Dragon God Palace, relying on my extraordinary talent, I indeed obtained a lot of resources and finally broke through to the half-step invincible realm. However, although I obtained a powerful cultivation and had the ability to take revenge on my enemies, I had lost my freedom and could only enter Divine Dragon Island helplessly. Qin Feiyang said. Are you investigating me? Li Chang said angrily. Do you think I have so much free time? Besides, you have always been on Divine Dragon Island. I have never even heard of you before. How can I investigate you? Master was the one who told me all of this. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. You still have the face to mention your master? Li Chang laughed angrily. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Still playing dumb? Go and ask around. Who doesn't know that you killed Yi Zhong with your own hands? And it's a complete annihilation. To tell you the truth, I am indebted to Grand Hall Master Yi Zhong for grooming me. If you kill him, you will become my enemy. Li Chang's eyes flashed coldly. You are indebted to master for grooming you? Qin Feiyang was surprised. If that was the case, things would be easier to handle. That's right. Back then, it was the master of the Dragon God Palace who ordered the master of the Dragon God Palace to take special care of me. I know you have a heaven-defying artifact, but this is Divine Dragon Island. Now, please come with me to see Lord Dragon Sovereign. Li Chang got up and looked at Qin Feiyang expressionlessly. Qin Feiyang didn't move. He looked up at Li Chang and said, "It's because of Master's death that you hate me so much and want to kill me. What if Master is not dead? The truth is the truth. It can never be changed." Li Chang snorted coldly. All right. Then I'll let you see what the real truth is. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said to himself, Master, I'll have to disturb you again. It's fine. Yi Zhong's voice sounded a little hoarse. Qin Feiyang's mind moved, and Yi Zhong's soul immediately appeared in the cave. Master of the palace. Li Chang's eyes trembled slightly. It's me. Yi Zhong nodded and smiled. What's going on? Li Chang looked at Yi Zhong and then at Qin Feiyang, his eyes full of doubts. Back then, I didn't kill Master at all. Yi Cheng is still alive and well. In short, this is a play that I directed. Qin Feiyang said. A play? Li Chang was slightly stunned and frowned. Why do you want to do this? Could it be? When he spoke up to hear, Li Chang looked at Yi Zhong and said, could it be that it's really as Long Zun said? You had the heart to betray the dragon race since long ago, so you put on this show with Qin Feiyang? Li Chang, you think too simply. If this old man really had the heart to betray, would I let Shui and father stay on Divine Dragon Island? Yi Zhong sighed. Then what are you doing? Li Chang's face was full of suspicion. This matter, Qin Feiyang chuckled and said, this is because of the personal feelings between Master and Long Zun. Yi Zhong immediately rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang. Personal feelings? Li Chang was stunned and said in surprise, Master of the palace, could it be that the rumors are true? You and Long Zun. Cough cough. Yi Zhong coughed dryly and shook his head, there's no need to mention the past again. I see. Li Chang suddenly understood. Qin Feiyang also looked at Yi Zhong in surprise and said, Master, you figured it out so quickly? So fast? Yi Zhong shook his head and said, more than 10,000 years have passed in the castle. That's right. Qin Feiyang patted his head. Although only half a month had passed outside, more than 15,000 years had passed in the castle. If he still couldn't figure it out after more than 15,000 years, then he was completely hopeless. More than 10,000 years? What does this mean? Li Chang looked at the two of them suspiciously. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, it means that I have a time array that is more powerful than Divine Dragon Island. More powerful than Divine Dragon Island? Li Chang was stunned. Yes. 1,000 years in a day. Qin Feiyang nodded. No way. Li Chang was dumbfounded. Divine Dragon Island's 500-year time array was already shocking enough, but now Qin Feiyang said that he still had a 1,000-year time array. What kind of monster was this? Qin Feiyang looked at Yi Zhong and said with a smile, Master, you continue to reconstruct your body in Divine Soul. Yi Zhong nodded and looked at Li Chang, don't make a decision because of this old man. Follow your own heart and original intentions. Okay. Li Chang nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Yi Zhong disappeared. Li Chang looked at Qin Feiyang and lowered his head to ponder. Although Qin Feiyang said it clearly, the meaning was already very clear. He wanted him to betray the dragons. But, the price of betraying the dragons was unimaginable. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, I won't force you. You can go back first and think about it. Aren't you afraid that I will tell Long Zun? Li Chang frowned. If you doubt someone, don't use him. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. You're quite bold. Li Chang took a deep breath and asked, when did you come to Divine Dragon Island? What is your purpose in coming to Divine Dragon Island? On the day you killed your way to the north. And at that time, the Qin Feiyang you saw was not me. It was one of my subordinates in disguise. Qin Feiyang said. Not you? Li Chang was stunned. It's actually very simple. I asked my subordinates to pretend to be me and appear in front of you. As for myself, I mixed in with the disciples of the Dragon God Palace and took the opportunity to enter Divine Dragon Island. As for the reason why I took the risk to come in, I believe it's not difficult for you to guess. Qin Feiyang said. So that's how it is. You're really amazing. You actually hid it from everyone. Li Chang shook his head. This kid's mind was too terrifying. He asked, is the reason you entered Divine Dragon Island for Yi Shui, and the others? Yes. Yi Shui, and Old Man Yi are both Master's relatives. I can't sit back and do nothing. And Chief Pavilion Master is also my subordinate now. I definitely can't ignore her life and death. Qin Feiyang nodded. Chapter 2851. The Chief Pavilion Master is also your subordinate now? Li Chang was shocked. Didn't Long Zun tell you? Qin Feiyang asked back. No. But I heard that the Chief Pavilion Master is one of the 4 emperors of the Dragon Slayer Palace. Li Chang said. That's right. Qin Feiyang said. That's not right. Since the Chief Pavilion Master is one of the 4 emperors of the Dragon Slayer Palace, why would he become your subordinate? Li Chang was suspicious. I believe you know that no matter where it is, there are internal conflicts and disputes. The same goes for the Dragon Slayer Palace. Qin Feiyang said. So that's the case. Li Chang nodded and said, just to save them, you took the risk and entered the Divine Dragon Island alone? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Then have you thought about how to leave the Divine Dragon Island? Li Chang asked. Not yet. Qin Feiyang shook his head. No? Li Chang was stunned. He thought that Qin Feiyang had already thought of a way to leave the Divine Dragon Island. But he never expected that he didn't. In other words, he entered the Divine Dragon Island completely unprepared. Wasn't this equivalent to courting death? Aren't you afraid of death? Li Chang looked at Qin Feiyang and couldn't help but frown. Of course I'm afraid. Qin Feiyang smiled. Since you're afraid, why did you come to the Divine Dragon Island so impulsively? Li Chang said. I don't want to either. But there's no other way. I can only come first. I also believe that there's always a way out. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Li Chang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In the face of such a situation, he could still be so casual. He really didn't know how to describe this kid. However, this courage was worthy of praise. After thinking for a while, Li Chang made up his mind and looked up at Qin Feiyang, saying, then I'll take you to see Yi Shui, and the others another day. The fact that he was able to say this clearly indicated his decision. Qin Feiyang naturally understood as well. The stone in his heart was finally lifted. He said, I've already seen them. What? You've already seen him? When did this happen? Li Chang was shocked. On the 2nd day after I arrived at Divine Dragon Island, I went to look for them. Now, Yi Shui, and Old Man Yi are cultivating in the Dragon Palace. It's hard to get close to them. Qin Feiyang said. They are cultivating in the Dragon Palace? Li Chang was shocked. Yes. I think it's to make it easier to monitor them. Qin Feiyang nodded. Sigh. Li Chang let out a low sigh and said, Long Zun, aren't you afraid that the Chief Hall Master will be bitterly disappointed by doing this? Do you really think that Long Zun will consider Master's feelings? I'm afraid that in her eyes, Master is just a chess piece that can be used. Qin Feiyang sneered. Sigh. Hearing this, Li Chang could not help but sigh. It was really as the saying goes, the falling flowers are willing, but the heartless flowing water is heartless. The only headache I have now is how to get to the Chief Pavilion Master in the Divine Prison. This is the reason why I asked you to come here. Qin Feiyang looked at Li Chang expectantly. This divine prison, Li Chang frowned and lowered his head. After a while, he looked up at Qin Feiyang and shook his head. To be honest, I can't enter the divine prison either. A trace of disappointment suddenly appeared on Qin Feiyang's face. But, Li Chang said again. But what? Qin Feiyang was taken aback and hurriedly asked. Li Chang thought for a moment and said, Actually, we don't have to sneak into the divine prison. We can think of a way to let the dragons bring the Chief Pavilion Master out of the divine prison. As long as the Chief Pavilion Master leaves the divine prison, we will have a chance, right? When Qin Feiyang heard this, he immediately lowered his head and pondered. That's right. Why bother to enter the divine prison? He could think of another way to let the dragons take the initiative to bring the Chief Pavilion Master out of the divine prison. In this way, there would be a lot of opportunities. Thinking of this, a plan immediately appeared in Qin Feiyang's mind. Li Chang pondered for a moment, shook his head and sighed. Thinking about it carefully, it seems quite difficult to let the dragons bring the Chief Pavilion Master out. It's not difficult. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Li Chang looked at him in surprise. Qin Feiyang picked up the teacup and took a sip. He smiled and said, Why did the dragons imprison the Chief Pavilion Master? Why didn't they just kill her? Is there a need to think about it? Of course, it's because they want to deal with you. After all, the Chief Pavilion Master is now your subordinate. For the dragons, this is a very good bargaining chip. Li Chang said. That's right. For the dragons, the Chief Pavilion Master is indeed a good bargaining chip, but at the same time, she is also a huge threat. Because as long as the Chief Pavilion Master doesn't die, anything can happen. Qin Feiyang said. What do you mean? Li Chang frowned. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Isn't Long Zun dissatisfied with your performance in the north? Now you go and find her to make up for your mistakes. Go ahead. Li Chang leaned over. Qin Feiyang muttered a few words in a low voice. Is this okay? After listening, Li Chang frowned. Definitely. Qin Feiyang smiled. Li Chang pondered for a while, gritted his teeth, and nodded. Well, after dawn, I will go find Long Zun. Then you have to be careful. I don't want to use your life to exchange for the Chief Pavilion Master's life. Forget it. Qin Feiyang warned. Li Chang smiled slightly. This young man was indeed different. Dragons were unscrupulous in order to achieve their goals. But this man's first consideration was his safety. This was the difference. Qin Feiyang asked, Half a month ago, 1,000 of you went to the east, west, north, and south respectively. How many of you came back later? At the mention of this, Li Chang's face was full of sadness, and he shook his head. Only the 250 people who went to the north came back alive, and the others are all dead. They're all dead? Qin Feiyang frowned, and said, Didn't I tell the ancestor not to kill them? Qin Batian and the others did not make a move. It is said that the 250 people who went to the east died at the hands of the 5-clawed golden dragon. Li Chang said. This bastard. Qin Feiyang secretly cursed, couldn't he be gentler? These were all undead stage experts, what a pity to kill them. As for the people in the west and south, at this point, Li Chang closed his eyes in pain, and said, they were killed by Long Zun himself. What? Qin Feiyang was shocked. A total of 500 people, she actually erased their souls without saying a word. She doesn't treat us as humans at all. This is also why I chose to help you. I really don't want to be like these people one day and die without knowing why. Li Chang sighed. Ruthless enough. Qin Feiyang whispered. Isn't that so? I've never seen a woman more ruthless than her. Li Chang shook his head, his eyes filled with disgust. Don't worry, it will all pass. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. I hope so. Actually, right now, I don't have much of an extravagant request. I only hope that I can contribute a little to the rise of mankind. I really don't want to see future generations like us, being bullied by dragons and struggling at death's door. Li Chang said. If everyone thinks like you, then that's good. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Yeah. Our human race is not united in the first place. If everyone can let go of their ambitions and desires, even if the human race is not a match for the dragons, we won't fall to this point today. Just like this time, these 2 million people who came to the Divine Dragon Island with you, look at them, what are they? I feel that in their eyes, being a lackey is something that brings glory to their ancestors. Li Chang sighed. There's nothing we can do about it. After all, not everyone has self-respect and pride. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Li Chang shook his head and said with a smile, what about you? Why did you fight with the dragons until today? Me? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He said, I'm afraid you won't believe me if I tell you this. In the past, I had never thought of becoming enemies with the Dragon Clan. My initial goal in coming to the ancient realm was purely to search for my 2 ancestors. I really don't believe it. Li Chang said. But this is the truth. The initial conflict was also started by the dragons. They intended to deprive me of the power of my bloodline. You also know how important the power of bloodline is to a person. If I lose the power of my bloodline, I will become a cripple in an instant. Of course, I can't sit still and wait for death, so I started to deal with the dragons. In the end, the grudge became deeper and deeper. They wanted to get rid of me, and I also wanted to get rid of them. Qin Feiyang shrugged his shoulders and said very calmly. But as a listener, Li Chang felt that it was soul-stirring. As a young man from the lower realm, facing the pursuit of the dragons, the ruler of the ancient world, was a terrifying and despairing thing. If it were anyone else, they would have already given up resisting and obediently offered up the power of their bloodline. However, Qin Feiyang had never given up. Relying on his extraordinary perseverance and brain, he had walked all the way to today. And the heavens did not treat him unfairly. The current Qin Feiyang had already become a terrifying figure in the ancient world that no one dared to ignore. Even the powerful dragon race couldn't do anything about it. Qin Feiyang and Li Chang sat in the cave and chatted for a long time. They had a new understanding of each other. In Li Chang's heart, Qin Feiyang was a responsible, and righteous young man. And in Qin Feiyang's heart, Li Chang was a person with ambition, ideals, and a sense of justice. It was just that in the past, when he followed the dragons, he had no choice but to hide these things. In short, that night, the 2 of them chatted happily, and even had a feeling that they regretted not having met earlier. Chapter 2852. The next day. Early in the morning. Li Chang stood in front of his cave and scanned the mountains and rivers below. He took a deep breath and then disappeared in the direction of the Dragon Palace. At the same time, Qin Feiyang sat in the cave and looked at the teapot on the coffee table. He muttered, "It seems that I can't casually take out this immortal dew in front of others in the future." Fortunately, it was Li Chang who came this time. If it was someone else, such as Long Zun, the consequences would be unimaginable. Putting away the tea set, Qin Feiyang took out the space-time gate. His eyes flickered. He remembered that he could open the space-time gate when he was in the internal sea. Could he open it now on Divine Dragon Island? If he could open the space-time gate, it would be easy to leave Divine Dragon Island. However, the current Divine Dragon Island was shrouded in a barrier. And the owner of this barrier was Ice Dragon. Would Ice Dragon be able to seal the teleportation of the Gate of Time and Space? Qin Feiyang did not dare to try now. Because the opening of the space-time gate would cause too much of a commotion. He could only wait until he rescued the Chief Pavilion Master and take a gamble. Dragon Palace. Although the Dragon Palace was the most important place on Divine Dragon Island, there was no one guarding it. Of course. There was nothing strange about it. After all, the one who lived here was Long Zun, the strongest person in the ancient world. Who would dare to cause trouble here? And the Dragon Palace was a magnificent palace. The palace was more than 100 feet tall and was dazzling in gold and jade. There were stone pillars erected around it. Each stone pillar was engraved with a lifelike divine dragon. Above the main door, there was a sacred heavenly dragon engraved. Whoosh! A figure broke through the air and landed in front of the door of the Dragon Palace. It was Li Chang. Li Chang looked up at the tightly shut door of the Dragon Palace. His eyes were filled with awe. He knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "I am Li Chang. I have something to ask Lord Long Zun." "What is it?" "Soon." Long Zun's voice came from inside. "It's about the Chief Pavilion Master." Li Chang replied. Whoosh! At that moment, a blurry figure of Long Zun descended outside the door. Lord Long Zun. Li Chang bowed to the ground. "Get up." Long Zun said faintly. "I don't dare. This lowly one is actually here to receive his punishment." Li Chang knelt on the ground, not daring to move. "Receive punishment?" Long Zun was stunned. "Yes. When I faced Qin Badian and the Mermaid Emperor, my heart wavered a little. This should never have happened. Therefore, this lowly one has taken the initiative to come here and ask for punishment, Lord Dragon Sovereign." Li Chang lowered his head and said. Long Zun looked down at Li Chang and asked, "Is your confidence shaken? Or are you wavering?" "I don't dare to hide it from you, sir," Li Chang said while trembling with fear. "You're quite honest." Long Zun's tone was bone-chilling. Li Chang shivered. However, in the face of Qin Badian, the Mermaid Emperor, and Qin Feiyang, it is understandable that your confidence is shaken. After all, they're all stronger than you. As for the wavering of our position, seeing that you repented in time and took the initiative to admit your mistake, I won't bicker with you for now. But remember, there won't be a second time. Long Zun said coldly. "Thank you, Lord Dragon Sovereign, for not killing me." Li Chang cried out gratefully. Long Zun said, "Then tell me now, what do you want to say about the Chief Pavilion Master?" Li Chang got up, looked at Long Zun, and said respectfully, "Lord, aren't we going to kill the Chief Pavilion Master? Why should we kill her? She's now a bargaining chip in our hands." Long Zun said. "But I don't think so." Li Chang shook his head. "Why do you say that?" Long Zun frowned. "Lord, you know Qin Feiyang. Although he's young, he's actually very cunning and capable. What if he thinks of a way to save the Chief Pavilion Master?" Li Chang arrived. "Save the Chief Pavilion Master?" Long Zun was slightly taken aback and sneered, "You must be kidding. Not to mention entering the divine penitentiary to save the chief pavilion master, he can't even enter the divine dragon island. I know that Lord Dragon God has set up a barrier on the divine dragon island, but Lord Dragon Sovereign still can't be careless. Look at Qin Feiyang. From the northern region to the divine land, which of the things he did were not beyond our imagination and expectations? Finish it in one sentence. Qin Feiyang is full of too many possibilities. So when facing him, we must never be as sloppy as before. Li Chang said. Long Zun couldn't help but frown when he heard this. Recalling what had happened in the past few years, it was really as Li Chang had said. Everything that Qin Feiyang had done was something that they had not expected at all. They also thought that it was impossible. But in the end, Qin Feiyang did it. For example, the 10 great divine artifacts. In their opinion, Qin Feiyang wanted to snatch the 10 great divine artifacts from them, which was simply a joke. But in the end, the 10 great divine artifacts successively went to Qin Feiyang. There was also the battle in the North Sea Star River. Whether it was Long Zun or the great ancestral dragons, they all vowed that they would be able to take down Qin Feiyang this time. However, in the end, the ancient castle merged with the Black Tortoise realm, which went beyond the boundary of the divine artifacts, and caught them off guard. Then there was the Hell King. The Hell King was a killing trap that they set up specifically for Qin Feiyang. But when Qin Feiyang entered the Hell King, he actually got the recognition of the Blood Demon clan and was like a fish in water. In the end, it was them, the dragons, who were killed. There was also the appearance of Qin Feiyang, which was also full of miracles. Not to mention others, even the dragons, after entering the Hell King, had to wait for 1,000 years, when the Hell King closed, before they could come out. However, Qin Feiyang slipped out in advance. These things that would never happen in their eyes happened one after another to Qin Feiyang. What did this mean? It meant that, as Li Chang said, this person was full of too many possibilities. There couldn't be any carelessness. Who? Long Zun took a deep breath and looked at Li Chang. Then tell me, how should I deal with the chief pavilion master? Kill him as soon as possible. Li Chang's eyes flashed with killing intent. Long Zun heard this and lowered his head in silence. Lord. Actually, in my opinion, the chief pavilion master is not very valuable. Li Chang said. What do you mean? Long Zun was curious. Because the chief pavilion master didn't follow Qin Feiyang for a long time, and in the past, she and Qin Feiyang were opponents, so the relationship between them is purely a superior-subordinate relationship. Unlike others, such as Hua Yi and the five-clawed golden dragon, they have a life-and-death relationship with Qin Feiyang. If we were to capture them and use them to threaten Qin Feiyang, they would most definitely be excellent bargaining chips. That's because it would be impossible for Qin Feiyang to watch as they died. But the chief pavilion master, to be honest, I guess in Qin Feiyang's eyes, she is at most a chess piece. Moreover, the chief pavilion master was subdued by Qin Feiyang, so Qin Feiyang naturally took over the treasure pavilion. So now, in Qin Feiyang's eyes, the chief pavilion master has no value except for her strength. Li Chang said. Makes sense. Long Zun nodded. So I suggest to kill the chief pavilion master as soon as possible in order to avoid any trouble. After all, the chief pavilion master is not weak. If she escapes, she will be a great threat. Moreover, we have to kill the chief pavilion master in the cultivation place. Li Chang said. Why do we have to kill her in the cultivation place? Long Zun was suspicious. Kill one to warn the others. Li Chang's eyes flickered with a cold light as he looked at Long Zun and said, this time, the ancestral dragons have brought back 2 million disciples from the outside. May I ask Lord Long Zun, among these 2 million people, are you sure that all of them are sincerely following us dragons? Long Zun raised his eyebrows and said, "Continue." "I also believe that most of them must be sincerely following us dragons, but we can't rule out that there are some who are purely here for resources. So, we have to completely eliminate this. And killing the chief pavilion master in front of them is undoubtedly a very deterrent move," Li Chang said. "Firstly, we can get rid of this root of trouble. Secondly, we can also intimidate those disciples. Mother, this is indeed a good idea to kill two birds with one stone." The Prince of the Dragons appeared in front of Long Zun. His whole person had an indescribable elegance and freedom. "Greetings, Your Highness." Li Chang hurriedly bowed. "No need to be so polite." The Prince of the Dragons smiled at Li Chang. Long Zun looked at the Prince of the Dragons and said, "You agree with Li Chang's suggestion?" "I agree. And, let me do this." The Prince of the Dragons laughed. "You?" Long Zun was stunned. "I have been cultivating in seclusion since I was young. Almost no one knows of my existence. Even some of the young dragons don't know that the dragons have a prince like me. My sense of existence is too low. And now, I have broken through to the minor imperishable stage, and I should let the world know that the dragons not only have you, Long Zun, the princess of the dragons, the 10 ancestral dragons, but also me, the prince of the dragons." The Prince of the Dragons smiled faintly. However, in this calm tone, there was an astonishing domineering aura. Long Zun heard this and remained silent, as if he was hesitating. Li Chang said cautiously, "Your Highness, do you still need to personally take action for such a small matter? I don't need to tell you about the position of the chief pavilion master in the divine land. Is killing her a small matter?" The Prince of the Dragons asked. Li Chang was taken aback and nodded with a smile, "Listening to Your Highness, it seems that it is not a small matter. And, I also want to officially meet this Qin Feiyang." The Prince of the Dragons looked up at the sky and whispered. Long Zun looked at the Prince of the Dragons in surprise. The Prince of the Dragons said, "Mother, don't be nervous. I won't take the risk. I'm just sending the head of the chief pavilion master to him." "You call this not taking the risk?" Long Zun frowned. "Mother, you have to believe in your son. Your son wants to leave, and Qin Feiyang can't keep me." The Prince of the Dragons smiled slightly, and his gentle eyes were full of confidence. Long Zun shook his head and said, "All right then, I'll leave this matter to you." Chapter 2853. In the Cultivation Place. After Li Chang returned from the Dragon Palace, he told Qin Feiyang about this matter. The Prince of the Dragons personally took action, which was somewhat beyond Qin Feiyang's expectations. Originally, in Qin Feiyang's opinion, since it was Li Chang's proposal, it should naturally be carried out by Li Chang. If it was carried out by Li Chang, it would be much easier to solve. For example, stealing a beam and swapping it for a pillar. In this way, not only could it be done silently, but it could also avoid a head-on confrontation with the dragons. But he didn't expect that the Prince of the Dragons would suddenly intervene. In this way, a confrontation with the dragons was unavoidable. "When is the time?" Qin Feiyang asked. 3 days later in the morning. Li Chang said. "So soon?" Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up, as if somewhat dissatisfied with this answer. "This is the prince's decision, I can't refute it." Li Chang shook his head helplessly. In fact, their original plan was that if Long Zun agreed, the execution of the chief pavilion master would be set a month later. Why did it have to be set a month later? It was because they didn't have enough manpower now. Hua Yi, Fire Lotus, Five-Clawed Golden Dragon, and Feng Da Ji were guarding the 4 sides of the inland sea. Now, the strongest people around Qin Feiyang were Yi Zhong and Yi Cheng. But Yi Cheng was only a half-step invincible realm expert. Although Yi Zhong's cultivation was strong enough, his physical body and divine soul had not been reconstructed yet. So, they wanted to wait for Yi Zhong to reconstruct his physical body and divine soul before taking action. Because in this way, while Qin Feiyang rescued the chief pavilion master, Yi Zhong and Yi Cheng could also go to the Dragon Palace and join forces to rescue Yi Shui, and old Master Yi, taking care of both sides. But now, the Prince of the Dragons had intervened, and the time was set 3 days later. In such a short time, even if the ancient castle had a 1-day, 1,000-year time array, Yi Zhong couldn't reconstruct his physical body and divine soul. It could be said that the Prince of the Dragons' intervention completely disrupted their plan. How about this? At that time, you will save the chief pavilion master, and I will save Yi Shui, and the others. Li Chang made up his mind and looked at Qin Feiyang. No. You're the one who suggested this. You'll have to accompany the Prince of the Dragons the whole time. Otherwise, people will be suspicious. Besides, if you really go to the Dragon Palace, how am I going to help you break the fate contract when I'm in the cultivation ground and you're in the Dragon Palace? Qin Feiyang shook his head. He couldn't help Li Chang remove the fate contract in advance, because doing so would alarm the Dragon Sovereign. Therefore, he had to rescue the chief pavilion master and the other two at the same time, help Li Chang remove the fate contract at lightning speed. Only then would he be able to get the best of both worlds. Then what should we do? Li Chang frowned. Qin Feiyang remained silent. Let me go. Yi Cheng's voice suddenly rang out in Qin Feiyang's mind. You? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Give me a heaven-defying artifact, and I'll definitely be able to save them. Yi Cheng said. It doesn't matter if it's a heaven-defying artifact. If you want it, you can take it all. But Yi Shui, and old man Yi are in the Dragon Palace. At that time, your opponent will be the Dragon Sovereign. Moreover, this is the Divine Dragon Island. The sovereign divine weapon won't sit idly by. At that time, even if you can save Yi Shui, and old man Yi from the hands of the Dragon Sovereign, you won't be able to come to the cultivation ground to meet me. Qin Feiyang said. Someone has to be sacrificed. Yi Cheng smiled slightly. Obviously, he was ready to sacrifice himself. I absolutely won't allow you to have such thoughts. Let me think about it again. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered. Then why don't I go back first? Let me know when you've thought about it. Li Chang looked at Qin Feiyang and said. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded. If he stayed here for too long, it would inevitably arouse suspicion. Before going to the Dragon Palace, they had already established a contract bridge with each other. There's one more thing. You need to confirm if the Dragon Sovereign used the fate contract to control Yi Shui, and the others. Before Li Chang left, he reminded Qin Feiyang again. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but frown. But thinking about it carefully, the Dragon Sovereign shouldn't be controlling the two of them. Because in front of Yi Shui, and old man Yi, she was playing the role of a good person. If he used the fate contract to control them, wouldn't it be the same as exposing his true colors? Moreover, if he really wanted to control them, he wouldn't keep them by his side to monitor them. So, this point that Li Chang was worried about could basically be ruled out. But to be honest, this was an unprecedented challenge for Qin Feiyang. On one side was the powerful Dragon Sovereign, and on the other side was the sovereign divine weapon that even a heaven-defying artifact couldn't defeat. To save the three of them and successfully escape from the Divine Dragon Island could be said to be more difficult than ascending to the heavens. But if everything could go according to his plan, it wouldn't be that difficult. It was a pity that plans couldn't keep up with changes. Now that the Prince of Dragons was involved, the best way was, swish. Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up. That's right. The best way was for Yi Shui, and Old Man Yi to come to the cultivation ground together on the day of the execution of the chief pavilion master. As long as the two of them came to the cultivation ground, they would be able to save all three of them at once. This way, Yi Cheng wouldn't have to go to the Dragon Palace to take the risk. However, on the day of the execution of the chief pavilion master, would Long Zun let Yi Shui, and Old Man Yi come to join in the fun? If Long Zun didn't let them come, then their hope would be lost. No. There was no better way than this. On the day of the execution, Yi Shui, and Old Man Yi had to come to the cultivation ground. If there was no chance, then create one. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly, and he was about to leave the cave. Brother Wang, at this moment. Li Xiaofei's voice sounded outside. This person is really annoying. Qin Feiyang rubbed his head, adjusted his expression, opened the stone door of the cave and walked out. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang looked suspiciously at the excited Li Xiaofei. What good thing did he encounter this time? Follow me. Li Xiaofei dragged Qin Feiyang and walked towards the central area of the cultivation ground. Can't you just say what you want to say? Qin Feiyang frowned. You'll know later. Li Xiaofei said without turning his head. Very soon, the two of them entered the central area of the cultivation ground. Qin Feiyang found that there were actually many people gathered below, looking at the peak of a mountain in front. Look. Li Xiaofei pointed to the peak of the mountain. Qin Feiyang raised his head to look, and his expression immediately stiffened. Why would she come to the cultivation ground? There was a woman on the peak of the mountain, wearing a pure white dress. She was devastatingly beautiful. The woman stood in front of a straw hut, seemingly waiting for something. How is it? It's an accident. Li Xiaofei chuckled. Accident? What accident? It's just a woman. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips. Li Xiaofei looked at Qin Feiyang in astonishment and asked, Damn, don't tell me you don't know who she is? Who? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. You really don't know? Li Xiaofei was stunned and looked at Qin Feiyang strangely, saying, Aren't you a disciple of the Northern Dragon God Palace? Why don't you know her? Is she very famous? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Li Xiaofei looked at Qin Feiyang speechlessly, then looked up at the woman with admiration. She is the granddaughter of Yi Zhong, Yi Shui. What? She is the granddaughter of the Grand Hall Master? Qin Feiyang was surprised. That's right. The woman on the peak of the mountain was Yi Shui. This was what surprised him. Why did Yi Shui suddenly come to the cultivation ground? Li Xiaofei pursed his lips, saying, I thought you didn't know her. I don't know her, but I have heard of her. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. That's true. As the granddaughter of the chief pagoda master, she has both strength and status. How could she know insignificant people like us? It's just a pity. At this point, Li Xiaofei shook his head and sighed. What's a pity? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. It's a pity that Yi Zhong is dead, and he died in the hands of his disciple, Qin Feiyang. Li Xiaofei shook his head. How do you know? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. When Qin Feiyang killed Yi Zhong, it almost alarmed the entire Holy Dragon City. Is it strange that I know? Li Xiaofei frowned. But you are from the south. Qin Feiyang said. This is the purpose of socializing. Look here, there are hundreds of thousands of disciples from the Dragon God Palace in the north. As long as you have a good relationship with them, is it difficult to find out? Li Xiaofei smiled smugly. You are really bored to find out about this. Qin Feiyang shook his head. No, no, no. This is the joy of life, unlike you, who only knows how to cultivate in the cave abode all day. Li Xiaofei said in disdain. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Cultivate? He really wanted to cultivate in seclusion, but he didn't have the mood to do so. However, in the eyes of outsiders, it was true that he stayed in the cave abode all day. I heard from them that after Yi Zhong died, Lord Longzuan liked Yi Shui very much. Now, she is even cultivating in the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace. That's a place we can't even get close to, but she can stay there. I'm really envious. Li Xiaofei shook his head. You're envious of this? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Aren't you envious? It's a great honor to be by Longzuan's side. Li Xiaofei said with a smile. Honor? Qin Feiyang sneered secretly. This person was indeed hopeless. Brother Wang, don't be so calm, look at those people. Li Xiaofei pointed at the crowd in front and said in a low voice, these people must be thinking about how to capture Yi Shui's heart. What the hell? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Don't be so surprised. Although Yi Zhong is dead, we still have Longzuan as our backer. If we can win Yi Shui's heart, wouldn't we soar to the sky directly? Li Xiaofei said with spittle flying everywhere. Qin Feiyang was speechless. These people didn't know Yi Shui's current situation at all. If they knew, even if Yi Shui threw herself at them, they wouldn't dare to provoke this trouble. Besides, that Prince Dragons was interested in Yi Shui. These people could only move their stools and sit there to enjoy the show. How about it? Are you interested? Li Xiaofei looked at Qin Feiyang with shifty eyes. Qin Feiyang's face darkened and said angrily, I thought you called me here for something good, but it turned out to be to see a woman. You're really bored, goodbye. With that, Qin Feiyang turned around and left angrily. Li Xiaofei looked at Qin Feiyang's back in astonishment and shook his head, there's no future if you don't seize the opportunity. Then he looked at Yi Shui and murmured with a smile, if only I could marry her, not to mention Longzuan as her backer, just her looks, her figure. He looked like a love-struck fool. Chapter 28:54. But Li Xiaofei didn't know that when he suddenly saw Yi Shui, Qin Feiyang was actually happier than anyone else. Because he was about to look for Yi Shui. But he didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, Yi Shui would appear at the cultivation ground. Could it be that their hearts were connected? What the hell? Qin Feiyang shook his head. When it came to a man and a woman, it seemed a little ambiguous. However, Yi Shui's arrival was indeed a good thing. Because this meant that Qin Feiyang didn't have to think of a way to contact Yi Shui. After returning to the cave, Qin Feiyang immediately activated the concealment technique and rushed to a high point of the mountain ridge, then scanned his surroundings. He was looking for the dragon's prince. However, looking at the entire cultivation ground, he didn't see any trace of the dragon's prince. It seemed that only Yi Shui came. He made a prompt decision. He rushed to the top of the mountain and silently landed not far away from Yi Shui. There was a straw hut in front. And the owner of this place, if he wasn't wrong, was the person called Wang Chang. Wang Chang had the cultivation of the great achievement Undead Stage, an existence comparable to the ancestral dragon. To be honest, Qin Feiyang was also a little curious about this Wang Chang. The beast venerable followed the dragon venerable because he provided information to the dragon-slaying palace. Simply put, he was a spy. And Yi Zhong followed the dragons because of his personal feelings. Then why did Wang Chang follow him? Creak. Suddenly, the door of the straw hut opened, and an old man with white hair walked out with a walking stick. Medicinal fragrance? Qin Feiyang was stunned. This old man's body was filled with a thick medicinal fragrance. It seemed that he was also an alchemist. Shui, I'm sorry, I was refining pills just now and made you wait. The old man was very kind and amiable. It's okay. On the other hand, I've been on the Divine Dragon Island for so many years, but I haven't come to visit you. Yi Shui said. So you're here to see Wang Chang? Qin Feiyang cursed in his heart. That's true. Wang Chang and Yi Zhong were both dragons, so the two of them must be very familiar with each other. It's all right. Wang Chang waved his hand and said with a hoarse smile, the room is too messy, so this old man won't invite you in. Let's sit here and chat for a while. On the left side of the hut, there was a large locust tree. Under the locust tree, there was a stone table and 4 stone stools. It was very simple. It was filled with a simple aura. All right. Yi Shui nodded and helped Wang Chang to the stone table. Both of them sat on the stone bench. Wang Chang took out a tea set. As he brewed tea, he said with a smile, I remember the last time I saw you, you weren't this tall. Yes. Yi Shui nodded. Time really flies. Wang Chang shook his head and sighed. After brewing the tea, he fell silent for a moment before looking at Yi Shui. Your grandfather's death, it's all in the past. Yi Shui shook her head. Wang Chang was stunned for a moment before nodding. All right. It's all in the past. Let's not talk about it anymore. If you're free in the future, come and visit me more often and chat with me. Let this old man enjoy the joy of being with his family. The meaning of his words was obvious. He wanted Yi Shui to treat him as her grandfather in the future. All right. Yi Shui nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them silently. Seeing that the two of them were chatting about trivial matters, he flew to the door of the hut curiously and looked inside. Immediately, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. It was really quite messy inside. The hut was not very big. It was probably only 50 to 60 square meters. There was an alchemy platform on the left and a futon in the right corner. There were bottles and jars on the alchemy platform and herbs on the ground. It was extremely messy. It was hard to imagine that this was the residence of a supreme expert of the greater success indestructible realm. Indeed, an expert like this could not be looked at with ordinary eyes. Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang looked at the alchemy platform. There was no alchemy furnace or alchemy fire on it. It was obvious that Wang Chang had put it away. But there were a few elixirs on the stone platform. They were all divine life elixirs. And each divine life elixir had 4 dragon-shaped elixirs. It can't be. This Wang Chang is actually so powerful. He can refine elixirs with 4 dragon-shaped elixirs. Qin Feiyang felt very incredulous. In addition to his master, there was actually such a powerful alchemist hidden in the dragons. Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Chang, who was talking to Yi Shui, and his eyes flickered. Those who were familiar with him would know that this was the look of staring at prey. Qin Feiyang secretly heaved a sigh of relief and said to Wang Yu, don't be surprised, I'm right next to you. However, Wang Yu didn't seem surprised. There was even a faint expectation, as if she was deliberately waiting for Qin Feiyang here. 3 days later, when the chief pavilion master is executed, you must bring your great-grandfather to the cultivation place. Qin Feiyang secretly said. Hearing this, Yi Shui secretly asked in surprise, how do you know that they are going to execute the chief pavilion master? You already know? Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's why I came to find you. But I didn't dare to go to you directly, so I pretended to visit grandfather Wang Chang, hoping to attract your attention and make you come to me. Yi Shui transmitted her voice. You came to me specifically for the matter of the chief pavilion master? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Yi Shui answered. Qin Feiyang looked confused. Suddenly, he finally understood. Yi Shui didn't know that Li Chang was now his man, and the execution of the chief pavilion master was also his plan. So, Yi Shui thought that Long Zun unilaterally wanted to kill the chief pavilion master, and then used this method to inform him. This woman was quite smart. Killing the chief pavilion master was my plan. Qin Feiyang explained the plan in a simple and clear manner. So you were the one behind the scenes. Yi Shui suddenly realized. This guy was indeed a ruthless person, to be able to come up with such a plan. One more thing, are you and your grandfather controlled by the fate contract? Qin Feiyang asked secretly. No. Yi Shui replied. Qin Feiyang heaved a sigh of relief and asked again, then what about your image crystal? Long Zun said that he didn't want us to be disturbed by the outside world and cultivate in peace, so he destroyed it. Yi Shui said secretly. It's indeed destroyed. Qin Feiyang muttered, then that's it. 3 days later, we must find a way to come to the cultivation place. What if Long Zun insists on not letting us come? Yi Shui asked secretly. Then you can look for Prince Dragons, he will definitely help you. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Why would he help me? Yi Shui was suspicious. Find out for yourself. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he turned and left quietly. This bastard. Yi Shui cursed secretly. However, on the surface, there was nothing unusual. Although he was secretly talking to Qin Feiyang, he was also chatting with Wang Chang at the same time. After Qin Feiyang returned to the cave, his heart finally relaxed. As long as Yi Shui knew, then everything would be fine. What he had to consider now was how to leave Divine Dragon Island. Divine Dragon Island had an ice dragon's barrier. Although he had met the ice dragon more than once or twice, he knew nothing about the ice dragon's strength. He only knew that it was very strong. Therefore, he wasn't sure if this barrier could seal the space-time gate. If it couldn't, then it would be easy to just leave. But if it could seal the space-time gate's teleportation, then he would have to face a situation where there was a high chance of death. Should I find a place to try? Suddenly, this thought appeared in Qin Feiyang's mind. But in the end, he dispelled this idea. If Long Zun found out, then all his efforts would be in vain. As for 3 days later, even if he couldn't teleport out, he could at least save the 3 of them and fight with the dragons. In short, there couldn't be the slightest mistake now. A light flashed in his eyes. Since Yi Shui was in the Dragon Palace, then she must also know about the matter of killing the chief pavilion master. Brother Wang, are you there? Not long later, Li Xiaofei's voice once again sounded outside the cave. Qin Feiyang was now very disgusted with this person, so he didn't make a sound and pretended not to be there. Anyway, they would have a falling out in 3 days, so there was no need to waste his breath with this person. Time passed by on this day. Qin Feiyang also informed Li Chang. 3 days later, in the morning. Boom! A terrifying aura suddenly descended, awakening everyone who was in seclusion. This seems to be Li Chang's aura. What's the situation? Everyone walked out of the cave one after another and looked up, only to see Li Chang standing high in the sky. At the same time, inside the cave, Qin Feiyang was also meditating with his eyes closed. Sensing Li Chang's aura, he immediately opened his eyes, and 2 rays of light burst out. At the same time, Dragon Palace. The tightly shut door slowly opened, and the Prince of Dragons slowly walked out. Dressed in white, without a speck of dust, his long hair fluttered in the wind, and his entire person exuded an ethereal temperament. Swish! Long Zun also appeared, looking at the Prince of Dragons. If you really want to send the head to Qin Feiyang, you better be careful. I know. The Prince of Dragons nodded. Then go. Long Zun smiled slightly. Lord Long Zun, we also want to take a look. Yi Shui pulled Old Man Yi out of the depths of the Dragon Palace and looked at Long Zun. What are you guys going to do? Long Zun frowned. This Chief Pavilion Master is also an accomplice in killing grandfather. We want to see her die with our own eyes. Yi Shui said with a face full of hatred. There's nothing to see. Long Zun refused. Yi Shui couldn't help but believe Qin Feiyang's words and turned to look at the Prince of Dragons. Mother, let them go. Seeing the Chief Pavilion Master die with their own eyes, they will probably feel better in their hearts. The Prince of Dragons smiled at Yi Shui and looked at Long Zun. He's really going to help me? Yi Shui felt a little incredulous. To be able to predict this, is Qin Feiyang a god? But, Long Zun raised his eyebrows. I'm here. Besides, they are just going to the cultivation ground. They won't follow me and leave Divine Dragon Island to find Qin Feiyang. The Prince of Dragons smiled faintly. All right then. Long Zun pondered for a while and nodded. Thank you, Lord Long Zun. Yi Shui thanked him happily. Go, just don't run around. Long Zun waved his hand impatiently. Yes. Yi Shui nodded. Let's go. The Prince of Dragons retreated to the side and looked at Yi Shui and Old Man Yi with a smile. The two glanced at the Prince of Dragons and quickly walked out, flying towards the cultivation ground. The Prince of Dragons was also preparing to leave, but Long Zun suddenly transmitted his voice, I won't allow you to be tempted by human women, because this will destroy the power of our bloodline as dragons. The Prince of Dragons stopped in his tracks and lowered his head in silence for a while. A trace of a smile gradually appeared on his face, but he didn't answer Long Zun. Instead, he took a step forward and chased after Yi Shui and Old Man Yi. This child can't really be tempted, right? Long Zun frowned and muttered. He couldn't help but worry in his heart. Chapter 28:55. In the cultivation ground. It was boiling. In the sky. Li Chang stood majestically, his body filled with a murderous aura. Beside him, there were 4 half-step imperishable realm experts, each holding an iron chain in their hands. Between the 4 of them, there was a woman hanging in the air by the iron chain. That woman was Supreme Cloud. However, at this moment, she had long lost her former elegance. The 4 iron chains had penetrated her body, and blood flowed out along the iron chains. She was also disheveled and covered in blood, exuding a dying aura. Who is she? Why is she in such a sorry state? The disciples below were discussing. At the same time, Qin Feiyang stood in the crowd, sizing up the Chief Pavilion Master with a trace of emotion in his eyes. Who would have thought that the woman in front of him was the powerful Chief Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion? Who would have thought that the Chief Pavilion Master would fall into such a sorry state? To be honest, he did not have a good impression of the Chief Pavilion Master at all. Even if it was because of him that she entered the Divine Dragon Island and ended up like this, he did not have the slightest sympathy in his heart. Because if he had wanted to kill her back then, the Chief Pavilion Master would have ended up in a worse state than in the hands of the dragons. After all, what the Chief Pavilion Master had done was enough for her to die 10,000 times. However, since this woman had followed him and had such a strong cultivation, it was not against his will to save her along the way. Brother Wang, do you know her? Li Xiaofan poked Qin Feiyang's back and asked in a low voice. You don't know her? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. No. Li Xiaofan shook his head. Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. He did not even know the Chief Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion? But when he thought about it, he felt relieved. The Chief Pavilion Master would not usually appear in front of others, and would remain mysterious when she appeared. Therefore, there were not many people who knew her real appearance. I don't know her either. Qin Feiyang said. You don't know her, I don't know her either. Look at everyone, it seems that they don't know her either. What's going on? Li Xiaofei was puzzled. Qin Feiyang glanced at the curious Li Xiaofei, and he couldn't help but ponder, should I kill this swindler later? Whoosh! Suddenly, along with 3 air-piercing sounds, the Prince of the Dragons, Yi Shui, and Old Man Yi descended from the sky. Isn't that Yi Shui? Why is she here? Wait. Who is that white-clothed youth beside him? Very unfamiliar. How dare he stand together with Yi Shui? How dare he? You don't know she's mine? Some of the men were immediately displeased. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips into a smile. Everyone had finally arrived. Greetings, Your Highness. When the 3 of them arrived, Li Chang immediately walked in front of the Prince of the Dragons and bowed. What? He's a prince? Everyone present, other than Qin Feiyang, had astonished expressions on their faces. Prince? Didn't the dragons only have one princess? Since when did another prince come out of nowhere? Prince, then isn't he the son of Lord Long Zun? Oh my God! I actually scolded him in my heart just now. Compared to him, what are we? Only he is worthy of Yi Shui. No, no. It's Yi Shui, barely worthy of him. The Prince of the Dragons, this identity is too terrifying. The people below whispered, their faces full of shock. It was too unexpected. What kind of cultivation did the Prince of the Dragons have? Although everyone deliberately lowered their voices, they all fell into his ears. This was the effect he wanted. This prince of his had been silent for too long, so long that no one knew. So this time, he wanted to use the head and blood of the chief pavilion master to officially announce to the world that he was back. The Prince of the Dragons nodded to Li Chang and looked at the chief pavilion master. Looking at the chief pavilion master who was covered in wounds and hung in the air by iron chains like a dead dog, there was still no change on his small face. Yi Shui was scanning the crowd, obviously looking for Qin Feiyang. Is this woman stupid? Looking around while looking for him? Qin Feiyang was secretly annoyed. Suddenly, Yi Shui found Qin Feiyang in the crowd. Qin Feiyang hurriedly winked at her. Only then did Yi Shui react and quickly glared at the chief pavilion master. As for Old Man Yi, as soon as he arrived, he stared at the chief pavilion master coldly. Because he still didn't know the truth, he hated the chief pavilion master from the bottom of his heart. The Prince of the Dragons retracted his gaze and looked at Li Chang. Tell everyone. Yes. Li Chang responded respectfully, glanced at Yi Shui and Li Chang without leaving a trace, and then lowered his head to look at the people below. First, let me give you a formal introduction. The one standing next to me is His Highness, the Prince of our Dragon Clan. Don't look at how young he is, but his strength is stronger than mine. His Highness is now at the minor inextinguishable stage. Li Chang shouted. What? Minor inextinguishable stage. When everyone below heard this, they all looked at the Prince of the Dragons in shock. From the looks of it, he was about the same age as them. However, they didn't expect that he had already stepped into the minor inextinguishable stage. This was too terrifying. The dragons were actually hiding such a terrifying genius. What Qin Feiyang, what Qin Batian, compared to this person, they were too far away. This was the true pride of the heavens. The Prince of the Dragons had always maintained a gentle smile, and many young women at the scene were fascinated by him. Extraordinary talent, handsome face, tall and straight posture, and this temperament, this smile, he was simply a male god in their dreams. As for the other two, Li Chang looked at Yi Shui and said, one of them is Yi Zhong's granddaughter, and the other is Yi Zhong's father. But now, no one cared about Yi Shui or an old man Yi. Everyone's eyes were focused on the Prince of the Dragons. As for this one, Li Chang changed the topic and walked in front of the Chief Pavilion Master. He grabbed the Chief Pavilion Master's hair and raised the Chief Pavilion Master's face. You might not recognize this face, but every single one of you here has heard of her name. Even in the entire ancient world, she is famous. She is the Chief Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion. Li Chang shouted. What? The Chief Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion? At this moment, it was like a bomb that was thrown into the crowd. Everyone's eyes finally moved away from the Prince of the Dragons and locked onto the Chief Pavilion Master. She was the Chief Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion. What was going on? Why was the Chief Pavilion Master tortured like this on Divine Dragon Island? She is not only the Chief Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion, she has another identity. Li Chang shouted. What identity? At this moment, the whole place fell into a dead silence. Everyone stared at Li Chang, because it was definitely because of this other identity that the Chief Pavilion Master had fallen to such a state. Her other identity is one of the 4 emperors of the Dragon Slayer Palace, Supreme Cloud. Li Chang said. She is the Emperor of the Dragon Slayer Palace? As soon as the words came out, everyone was shocked. The Chief Pavilion Master was actually one of the 2 emperors other than Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang. This was too unbelievable. Someone asked, have you found the other venerable sovereign? Li Chang looked at the Prince of the Dragons. The Prince of the Dragons nodded. Li Chang took a deep breath and looked at the crowd. The other emperor has also been found. He is the Beast Emperor who rules our internal sea, Supreme Beast. It's actually Supreme Beast. Others might not know the existence of Supreme Beast, but as disciples of the 4 Dragon God Palaces, they had more or less heard of him. Just like Yi Zhong, he was also a person who was highly regarded by Long Zun. And just like the Chief Pavilion Master, he was also a super terrifying Supreme Beast. Not to mention anything else, the fact that Long Zun could rest assured and let Supreme Beast rule the internal sea was enough to prove his strength. However, the Chief Pavilion Master, who was powerful and had endless wealth, was deeply trusted by Long Zun, and even had a high prestige among the dragons, was actually the other 2 emperors of the Dragon Slayer Palace. If it weren't for Li Chang and the Prince of the Dragons testifying here, they wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. After knowing the true identity of the 2, everyone understood. No wonder the dragons couldn't find out the identity of the other 2 emperors after so many years. It turned out that one of them was hiding by her side. This was of course staying by Long Zun's side. No matter what Long Zun did, he knew it like the back of his hand. Of course, it was impossible to find out. It was just that this was too unexpected and shocking. Who would have thought that it would be these 2? Perhaps even Long Zun didn't think so before the investigation. The Treasure Pavilion has developed to this point under the protection of us dragons, and it has spread throughout the entire ancient world. It can be said that in the current ancient world, in some aspects, the Treasure Pavilion has more prestige than us dragons. But this Chief Pavilion Master, not only is he ungrateful, but he also colludes with Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang, secretly providing resources for the Dragon Slayer Palace to strengthen the power of the Dragon Slayer Palace. He even wants to destroy us dragons. May I ask if such an ungrateful person should be killed? Li Chang roared. He should be killed. Everyone below roared angrily, and the sound of killing shook the sky. Qin Feiyang also followed suit and roared. It was lively, so he wanted to liven things up. Then tell me, how should we kill him to relieve the hatred in our hearts? Li Chang roared again. Cut him into pieces, grind his bones, and scatter his ashes. Some of them roared angrily. Yes. Kill him by 1,000 cuts. The others also roared. Li Chang smiled slightly, seemingly very satisfied with everyone's attitude. Then, he turned to the chief pavilion master and said, "See, this is what the people want." Bah! The chief pavilion master spat a mouthful of saliva on Li Chang's face and said, "Those bastards below have even lost their dignity as human beings. How can they represent the people's hearts?" Li Chang wiped off the saliva on his face full of hostility. "You too. You can only be a dog in front of the dragons for the rest of your life. And I, although my ambition is indeed great, at least I know what dignity is. Even if I die, my name will go down in history, and you, even if you live, your name will go down in history in infamy." The chief pavilion master laughed and let out a final roar, his words carrying an unyielding and heroic spirit. Chapter 28:56. The chief pavilion master's words immediately caused the anger in everyone's heart to soar to another level. Because this was not only scolding them, but also humiliating them. But Qin Feiyang's eyes hid a trace of a smile. The chief pavilion master's ambition was indeed great. Not only did she want to control the Dragon Slayer Palace, but she also wanted to replace the Dragon Sovereign and become another empress of the ancient world after the Dragon clan was destroyed. But he had to admit that in front of her position and dignity, she was still worthy of admiration. At least, she did not lose her dignity as a human. In general, she did not let him down, and this adventure was worth it. Stubborn. Li Chang also had an extremely angry expression, strode to the front of the Prince of Dragons, bowed and said, "Your Highness, please execute." The Prince of Dragons smiled faintly and walked to the chief pavilion master, with Li Chang following beside him. The Prince of Dragons stood in front of the chief pavilion master and said with a faint smile, "Your ideals are good, but the reality is very cruel. Don't worry. When the time comes, someone will naturally come to deal with you dragons." The chief pavilion master smiled coldly. "At any time, dragons will not be afraid of anyone. Including Qin Feiyang, whom you are looking forward to." The Prince of Dragons smiled faintly, raised his hand and waved gently, accompanied by a clanging sound, a 3-foot battle sword appeared out of thin air. Clang! A wave of world-shocking sharpness immediately swept out in all directions. This battle sword was pure white without any flaws, as if it was made of a piece of beautiful jade, exuding a soft light. On both sides of the sword hilt, a holy dragon was engraved. Not only was its sharpness peerless, but it also carried an astonishing dragon might. Looking at this battle sword, Qin Feiyang's pupils suddenly shrank. This was actually a heaven-defying divine artifact. He had always thought that the dragons no longer had any heaven-defying divine artifacts. And his master, the Beast Emperor, also said so. But he did not expect that this Prince of Dragons actually hid a heaven-defying divine artifact in his hands. This is the Holy Dragon Sword, which has followed me since I was young. It is the biggest secret of us dragons. The only people who know of the existence of the Holy Dragon Sword are my mother and I, even my sister, Princess Dragons, doesn't know. The Prince of Dragons stretched out his hand and gently rubbed the sword. The sacred dragon sword seemed to enjoy the prince's caress. The sword's body constantly hummed and trembled, emitting a kind of joyful emotion. This sword was personally forged by my father, the current dragon god. Until now, it has never tasted blood. Today, I will use your blood to sharpen its blade." The Prince of Dragons smiled. The sacred dragon sword let out a soft cry and flew out of his hand, floating above the chief pavilion master's head. "You should feel honored to be able to become the sacrifice of the Holy Dragon Sword." Prince Dragons smiled at the chief pavilion master and gently pressed his finger in the air. Clang! The sacred dragon sword immediately let out an ear-piercing sword cry, and the entire sword body released a divine light, piercing straight toward the head of the chief pavilion master. "If you want to kill my people, you should at least get my permission first." But at this moment, a faint laugh suddenly rang out. Clang! Immediately after, a yellow shield soared into the sky and blocked above the head of the chief pavilion master. The shield surged with divine light, emitting a strong aura. Clang! The sacred dragon sword pierced the shield, and immediately sparks flew in all directions. The next moment, a scene that shocked everyone appeared in the sky. The sacred dragon sword did not pierce through the shield, and was blocked by the shield. What is that? The people present did not react for the first time. Because no one would have thought that someone would suddenly appear at this time. And in front of the Prince of Dragons. Wasn't this courting death? Whoosh! Just when everyone was confused, a figure flashed to the side of Yi Shui, an old man Yi like lightning. Before anyone could see clearly, this figure brought Yi Shui, an old man Yi to the side of the chief pavilion master. Clang! A bronze halberd surrounded by divine light appeared in this person's hand. With a wave of this person's hand, the 4 iron chains tied to the chief pavilion master also broke on the spot. Without the restraint of the iron chains, the chief pavilion master immediately fell down powerlessly. It was also at this time. Li Chang took a big step forward, hugged the falling chief pavilion master, and landed beside that person. Although it was slow, the whole process was only a moment. This series of changes, not to mention the people below, even the Prince of Dragons and the 4 half-step undying supreme experts, did not react. Clang! The next moment, a stone door with divine light flashing appeared. It was the space-time gate. Not bad. The person who attacked was Qin Feiyang. In order to save the chief pavilion master and the other 2 and smoothly escape from Divine Dragon Island, he had already pushed his speed to the limit. Activating the shield to block the sacred dragon sword. Rushing into the sky to save Yi Shui, an old man Yi. Taking out the bronze halberd, he cut the iron chains on the chief pavilion master. Then, he opened the space-time gate. All of this, as he thought, went very smoothly. However, just as he opened the space-time gate, his pupils shrank slightly. The space-time gate could not be opened. Although he had been mentally prepared, when he really faced it now, he still could not help but panic. You are Qin Feiyang? At this time, the Prince of Dragons also finally reacted. The sacred dragon sword rose into the air and returned to his hand. The Prince of Dragons grabbed the sacred dragon sword and looked at Qin Feiyang. There was a trace of doubt in his eyes, but there was not much change. What? Qin Feiyang? The 2 million people below stared at Qin Feiyang. The 4 half-step undying supreme experts who had grabbed the iron chains before also quivered when they heard this. They hurriedly stood in front of the Prince of Dragons and looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. The chief pavilion master and old man Yi also had a look of surprise. Qin Feiyang did not reply to the Prince of Dragons. With a thought, the slave seal operated and the fate contract controlling him directly shattered. At the same time, he also used the slave seal to instantly shatter the fate contract in Li Chang's body. What's going on? The moment the fate contract shattered, the dragon sovereign in the dragon palace and the black dragon ancestral dragon in the clan suddenly opened their eyes. Because the one controlling Li Chang was the dragon sovereign. The one controlling Qin Feiyang was the divine stone of fate in the hands of the black dragon ancestral dragon. So they felt the abnormality of the fate contract at the same time. At this time, Qin Feiyang looked at the Prince of Dragons and smiled faintly. How do you know that I am Qin Feiyang? It's very simple. That shield is called the Shield of Thick Earth. It is the heaven-defying divine weapon of the Earth Dragon ancestral dragon. The bronze halberd is called the Sky-breaking halberd. It is the heaven-defying divine weapon of the Sword Dragon ancestral dragon. These divine weapons were all snatched away by Qin Feiyang, but now they are in your hands. If you are not Qin Feiyang, Who are you? The Prince of Dragons said. Smart. Qin Feiyang smiled. But you are stupid. You actually dared to barge into the Divine Dragon Island. The Prince of Dragons shook his head, a trace of disappointment in his eyes. Is that so? Qin Feiyang said. Yes. Originally, I thought that you must be a very smart person. Otherwise, how could I, the dragons, lose to you time and time again? However, from the looks of it, it seems, because if you were really smart, you wouldn't have snuck into the Divine Dragon Island. The Prince of Dragons said indifferently. I don't want to come either, but there's no other way. There's someone I have to save here. Qin Feiyang was helpless. Are you really Qin Feiyang? Chief Pavilion Master looked at Qin Feiyang in astonishment. It's me. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled at Chief Pavilion Master, then took a facial restoration pill. Immediately, he recovered his true appearance. It's really him. The cultivation ground immediately boiled. This person's guts are too big, isn't it? What kind of place was the Divine Dragon Island? That was the base camp of the dragons. He actually dared to take the risk and barge in? The rumors were true. This was an extremely daring person. Chief Pavilion Master and Old Man Yi looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. Especially Old Man Yi, there was still a trace of confusion in his eyes. First, he cruelly killed Yi Zhong and Yi Cheng, and now he risked his life to save them. What was going on? Are you really here to save me? Chief Pavilion Master came back to his senses and asked. What else? Qin Feiyang was speechless. When Chief Pavilion Master heard this, an extremely complicated emotion emerged in his heart, and he muttered, Is it worth it? Whether it's worth it or not, I know in my heart. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, then waved his hand and sent them to the ancient realm. Li Chang was also sent to the castle. In other words, right now, there was only Qin Feiyang outside. Qin Feiyang. At this time, Long Zun descended, his eyes full of anger. You little beast, you actually came to Divine Dragon Island, you've gone too far. Accompanied by a roar, Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon also rushed over like lightning. You came really fast. Qin Feiyang glanced at the two, and with a wave of his hand, the shield of thick earth fell in front of him. The sky-breaking halberd in his hand also flashed with divine light. He did not choose to escape at the first moment. Because of the ice dragon's barrier, he could not find a way to escape at all. So it was better to stay and fight head-on to fight for a way out. At this time, he was not nervous, and his mind was unprecedentedly calm. This calmness made everyone present could not help but be in awe. In the face of dragons, facing Long Zun, he could still be so calm. Just this mentality alone was not comparable to ordinary people. What's going on? Long Zun glanced at Qin Feiyang gloomily, and looked at the Dragon Prince and asked. It's Li Chang, who secretly colluded with him to save Chief Pavilion Master. Prince Dragon's Ancestral Dragon said. This damn bastard, I should have killed him long ago. Long Zun was furious. 3 days ago, Li Chang ran to the Dragon Palace and suggested the execution of the Chief Pavilion Master. You were the one behind it, right? Prince Dragon's Ancestral Dragon looked at Qin Feiyang and said. Yes. Originally, I thought of sneaking into the divine prison, but it's too dangerous. So on second thought, instead of risking my life to enter the divine prison, it's better to use a little trick and let you take the initiative to bring her out of the divine prison. Qin Feiyang nodded. What about Yi Shui and the others? Prince Dragon's Ancestral Dragon said. Do you still remember when you accompanied Yi Shui back to the courtyard to get the jade pendant? Qin Feiyang asked. Prince Dragon's Ancestral Dragon pondered for a while and said, so the killing intent she showed was because she saw you at that time. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Amazing. Your plan is perfect. Gather them all to the cultivation place, save them in one fell swoop, then open the space-time gate and smoothly leave Divine Dragon Island. But what you didn't expect is that the space-time gate can't be opened on Divine Dragon Island. Prince Dragon's ancestral dragon said. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.